Hey, I'm here for today. Welcome. Okay, here's what's happening. I'm gonna look at the news, have a short little video from Twitter I want to show about this guy talking about capitalism, and then I will open the panel. Daniel Barry, afternoon to you too. This is the last time I will be able to stream regularly at this time, consistently. I start a new job tomorrow. My schedule is going to be very erratic and unpredictable from week to week. I'm still going to stream every day. I'm not going to know ahead of time what times I'm going to be able to stream. So it was really good hanging out with everybody in this time slot, and I'll still try to hit it when I can. But the streams are going to start to vary from here on out. Tomorrow, we're doing a Valentine's Day stream in the evening, late afternoon, early evening. It's going to be for all of us losers who have no Valentines to do that day. So come hang out here. We can all commiserate together and have our own little pity party. All right, let me check on the news. Trump, Putin, Trump. RFK got confirmed. And there's an atmospheric storm that hit Southern California. All right, that's the news. Let's check out this little video. Hey, Plastic African. The topic of South Africa came up the other day. We want to hear how oppressed you are, if you know anything about it. Yeah, that's... Hopefully it's not that dramatic, but yeah. Maybe if a new era means more subs and the next level that I'm trying to hit, I'll accept it. Let the new era begin. All right, I want to show this little video about this guy talking about capitalism, because I think it's a better framing than what we get from people like Not Laws.
Dr. Morchangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about capitalism, the word capitalism, as well as capitalism itself. But it's always bugged me, and I came up recently, for some reason, I'm not sure why.
What
the
is
problem with
he
the word
sitting next
capitalism
to?
is that
Hang on.
it just ends up to...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, sir. We got more pressing issue. What is he sit? Is that a rolled up rug? Why? This is such a nice background. Why would he have that thing just standing there? Like, what if you needed coffee or water or whatever's in that pitcher? How would you even get to it? This is not good. I'm not the best. You could tell from my own background. But this is not optimizing your YouTube potential.
to be another ism. And there's capitalism and socialism and communism and all these different kinds of authoritarianism. It's just one of these isms. It's just like it's just another ism. And the problem with the word capitalism is that all that it really stands for is the free market. And the free market just means individuals being freely able to negotiate with one another to come to a consensual agreement. That's all that it means. So they don't have to fight about it.
That sounds
They can just come to a consensual agreement through negotiation. That's all that capitalism means. Capitalism just means a free market. It would be like talking about free expression, saying, look, I think we should all have free expression, be allowed to have a public square where everybody's allowed to speak and say what they wish, and someone calls it argumentatism, right? Something like this. Well, we've got argumentatism, and then we have some kind of authoritarian censorship system, and you've got all these different isms related to your view on free expression, and then it starts to make it seem like one of those, argumentatism, because of course free expression is all about debate and arguments and discussion, is just another one of these things, and there's nothing special or privileged about it. But of course, it would be incredibly privileged. It is nothing like the others. It's the only one that just says people should be free and uncensored to say what they wish. Right? It's the one that doesn't violate civil rights. It's the one that just says, I have no right to stop people from freely communicating and discussing the things that they wish. Same for the free market. We don't need some special ism kind of word that obscures the fact that all that the free market means, all that capitalism means, all that it means, all that you're referring to is a system that allows people to freely exchange their goods and services as they wish. You can have this many apples
Yes.
for those many
And I have
oranges, or
services too.
do my roof of my
So
house,
buy
or I
my
do my hair
exchange
for this
money
many
for
apples, or
mine.
for this much, capital. All of these things are freely, consensually made negotiations between people. That's what underlies the free market. And so if you come up with a weird ism, you go, well, that's just another system. That's just another system of organizing things. No, it's the only non-authoritarian one, right? There is the free one that respects civil liberties, of which you can potentially have different kinds of ways of implementing it. Of course, there's different
I
ways of
heard, I
implementing it.
think that's the bulk of it, that capitalism was a term invented by Marx anyway. So he would like they do with cisgender. Um, that it so they could have something to set communism off against. So they reframe the free market as an ism, capitalism. It's easier to attack a villain with an identity if you can make them into an identity than just some abstract, amorphous activity. Oh well. Oh, is a watering can. Well, what if he needs what? Like, was that was a rug, right? He had a big rolled up rug. So that's he could have sat a little bit to the side and moved the camera over and just cut the rug out of the picture, and we would have. That was distracting me the whole time. All right, that's all I want to show. Is open panel now. Come on up. Enjoy the discussion while you have it. I can't guarantee when the next one's going to happen. Yes, I can. Tomorrow night, Valentine's Day. What's going on in South Africa?
Not
Were
in
you ever
South Africa.
discriminated against as a white man?
Uh, yeah. I mean, it's worse now, isn't it? They say that because it started like, the Dutch were there. What is it? The Cape of Good Hope. The Portuguese as well, and then the English came. The Boer went into the Orange Free State. To create what we see as the Republic today. The Ubuntu people, because they're broken up into different tribes, they come from way up north. So the original people were the San and the Khoi, who were like from Southwest Africa, which is now known as Namibia, which had its independence and lost its first president this week or last week. Yeah, I mean, there's discrimination everywhere in that regard. Now it's worse because of affirmative action, and that the ANC
Did
took
they try
power.
to burn your house down?
I mean, no, I wasn't in that sort of way. I mean, I don't want to really speak about it on this right now. What happened to me directly, but yes, I was involved in some violence, if you will, when I was very
Ooh.
young. Yeah, it was pretty
Just
tragic.
because you were like, were you aware it was
I
just
think.
because of
I
your
mean,
race?
no, it wasn't just because I was white. It was because the ANC came to power, and the Africans there thought, just that's it, that's ours now. All of a sudden, there were lots of people that they just got murdered then and there, and because it's our land all of a sudden. And then it's again, you can say with the communists, they pushed that ideal to the Africans as well to get the British and the French and the Portuguese out, to instill like, this is your land, this is your freedom, sort of thing. And the Chinese now,
What was the source of the communism? Who pushed it?
it started, I guess, in Angola. They had like the Rhodesians had a war with the communists in Angola as well, with the South Africans as well, and the South Africans were really again kind of aligned then with the Israelis. There was a lot of alignment there. I mean, the Uzi comes from South Africa, but was developed with the Israelis. Excuse me. I've been grafting. I'm tired. A
Oh,
long week. I don't have to work tomorrow.
yeah.
But
That you started back to work, right?
yeah, I have. Yeah, so I've got a 6-week contract that I have to do. Oh,
Oh my, that's
yeah. But the
sounds
problem is
lucrative.
I'm having issues with the guy. Not me, but there's finance issues with somebody else, and then there's communication issues with who was on board, and I'm not happy about that. because it can get dangerous and stuff.
Oh,
So
dang.
lots to deal with, at the moment. Yeah. So I'm just
How are
pretty.
you? How do you handle the stress from that?
I just handle it.
Just
I'm all right with stress as long as I keep professionalism. The problem is it's who comes on board and who I get and how I have to get them working. Because if there are problems, I have to problem solve them. I have to figure it out. I have to use my head and
mhm.
the tools I have and get that sorted. I can't have like, oh God, we can't do this. We have to find a solution to it, depending on what where we find on what happens on the ground on site when we go into these places. But this one was easy. It was a dismantle and a move into a structure from outside to inside. These are big turntables for vehicles, you know. So,
Turntables for
so the
vehicles.
vehicle will go onto it. It's like a big 360-degree camera.
Oh, yeah, we had that little gas station growing up that you put the cars in with the little people, and it had
Yeah,
one of those little
yeah,
turn
yeah. These
things.
ones, like some of the cars, are worth like upwards of 300,000-400,000 pound. So 500,000 or something. Excuse me. Yeah, so I'm quite knackered, and I'm having a few beers tonight because I'm
I was
not
about
going
to
to be.
ask if you had your mead
Not my mean, no. It's just I'm
beers.
shy. Only one. But I don't know. I'm just a bit knackered at the moment. Trying to pull myself, and then of course I've got to deal with lots tomorrow because I've got to invoice and then talk about crap. Oh God. Oh, don't want to deal with it, buddy. But yeah, all in all, it's been okay. I do enjoy it. Yeah.
Is it,
Not,
are you, is it just you, like you're the head, you're
no, no,
where
no, no.
everything stops, or do you have a team that
I
you
have a
all
team.
kind of
Yeah,
do
I
this
have a
together?
team. Yeah, and then I
Okay.
report to somebody else, and they report to somebody else.
Okay.
That sort of thing. So it comes down, flows down. Hands on this job. It's good though. It's a good job.
Yeah, it sounds, I love that kind of problem
I
solving.
think, bro.
If
Some of
you
them,
like
some of
that
the
kind of
places,
stuff, it
yeah,
sounds like a
I get to
good
go
challenge.
everywhere. Get good hotels. You know what I mean? I pay for it all. Get a good allowance. You know, it's all right. It's not too bad. But at the moment, just things seem very sluggish in the UK. We're having problems with our government. They're very authoritarian and incompetent is one of the words that you could
That's the
say.
worst combination.
Well, it's because it's there's I don't want to. I would love to get into it, but it's just like it's the West is losing its identity. Like if you look at the fall of Rome, the Greeks or the Egyptians or anything like that, we're coming to that pinnacle now where we're about to destroy ourselves. And you put on that guy who was talking about capitalism, and one of the things that is fucked up is our capitalist state of how it's all gone top heavy. You know, we're the masters. The whole money thing. So we hit like the industrial revolution that happened. We're going into another one right now with AI, and what that's going to do is I you can only speculate because it's going to remove a lot of highly professional people away from their jobs. That means lawyers. Essentially, there'll be a lot of surgery doctors, you name it, administrators that are going to just be to the sideline, because AI can
Because of
fulfill them.
AI?
Yeah, because it can fulfill it, essentially. It will. Because we're
It,
going into robotics as well, and that the automaton age. Once we crack that nut, which we're getting there, these things are going to be like robots are going to be doing these jobs, like back in the day when it was horse and cart, and then it became, fuel run or diesel or something like that. This we're coming to the and at greater speed than ever before, and it
yeah,
is.
that sounds like the Jetson age.
Yeah,
That
yeah, yeah. But it depends on how we deal with that, and again, how our value, our system deals with that in itself. Because again, the way in Europe, especially, we're having massive problems with migration, and people with culture clash and ideology. That's not good because it overrules the idea of what we see as uh, our system.
Yeah.
That pyramid, remember that pyramid starts with what? Education or shelter, and then it's like education or food, shelter.
Oh,
Right,
like the hierarchy of
right,
needs.
right at the top is enlightenment. You know what I mean? And that whole structure is about to collapse. You can just see it happening because
From letting in too many people
I don't think
outside
it's
of the
just letting
culture.
too many people in. I think it's people that have been just too lazy or had it too easy, maybe. You know, jobs like what Trump is doing by say stopping US aid. You know, US aid that he's done. He has collapsed many positions of NGOs around the world. You name it. That from Obama and Biden and all that lot were just making jobs for people, just handing out American dollars. Bang, bang, millions of this, millions and millions, going into billions, into things that were for condoms and sex or this, or it's just stupid things. And now with Doge and Elon, he's trying to audit this and also force it into your judiciary to say what's the reach of the president, what's he allowed to do and what he's not allowed to do. Instead of taking it to Congress, because Congress has seemed to have done this a lot, just handed out money, just mad, like funded EU, man, just mad, bro. But hey, this is where we are, and this is the hurdle we got to get over.
You think it's a good thing? Hey, Dank DeMoss. Oh, yeah. No, yes. Okay. This guy showed up last night at the stream looking for Nigerians, white Nigerians, and I told him that we had a
No, no,
plastic African.
yeah, but not no. I'm not Nigerian. I'm from the south. I lived in three
He's
countries out there: South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia. Yeah, I've worked in Kenya, Tanzania. I've been to places like Jordan. I guess you can call it that. In Egypt.
Jordan, you said?
Yeah, oh, it's just there. Really, it's like almost Middle Eastish, but I think it's Africa. You know, Africa's lovely, man. And then in some ways booming, and in other ways not. Look at the Congo; they're going through hell at the moment with
What's
Rwanda.
happening there?
Well, the Rwanda's I don't know. It's always minerals there, bro. It's always going
Oh,
to
like
be
a
it's mad
resource
amount. Yeah, it's
mining.
incredible what's going on there actually. And but you know, it's difficult for I guess for like that's why. And don't get me wrong, that's why the whole BLM to me is just like what the fuck, because it's not taking into account the tribalism of Africa, how large Africa is by scale, and how fractious it is because of its cultures and languages. It's disparate in that respect. You know, and BLM is like trying to say
I
that
didn't
black.
even realize it extended to Africa. Like
What?
they meant black lives all over the world. If you have black skin,
Yeah,
your life
yeah, but
matters.
it's also taking in that means that all blacks are like one and the same, and that's not
Yeah.
true. Like
They
all
do that
whites
with
are.
white people too. They
Yeah,
think
but we're
white
not,
people
are
are
we?
all one
Yeah, but if white,
homogenous
yeah,
group.
but if white people came together like that, what would we do? What would then we'd go fuck it, okay, and that's Russia all the way through Australia, and I said this, some of South America would come with as well, Spanish, European,
Yeah.
part of the Western Foundation.
That's why I can't take them seriously as intelligent people because their description of what they're observing is not even accurate. Doesn't even track with what anybody can see for themselves. Are you an Afrikaner? Is that the
No, I'm not.
that's a
I'm not a
language, right?
yeah
Afrikaner,
Afrikaans. No, I'm not a Boer. No, no, I'm English. I'm a
English.
Royal. Yeah, I left. I was born in England, where I reside now, and at 2 months old, my old man went out to South Africa. I have family that were born out there, but that doesn't make them Dutch.
Right.
So no.
Well, I think your life matters too.
I think everyone's life matters. Yeah, of course, but in other places, life is cheap, and it is. This is yeah. Is you were saying again with capitalism. earlier on as well. It's controlled by mechanisms that have been put there by families. So what is it? The Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and stuff. And when we go
So they
there, you think
say.
about yeah, but you think of like accumulated wealth, not just like what Bezos or Elon Musk has.
The
There's
real
huge amounts of
wealth,
private wealth, huge
the
amounts.
generational wealth.
Yeah, but yeah, well, yeah. If it's that way, it's yeah, mental. You can't just like claw it back now, can you? That's
No,
why
I don't
again,
know
maybe the
why.
age who's going to be the arbiter is this AI machine if it comes into it.
What's the AI gonna do? What's it have to do with that? Hey,
Well,
Ricardo and Helena.
well, if we take away our anonymity to spend, and instead of giving that, you put it into a system that gives you a basis on what you're worthy for,
You talking
and
about
you can,
social credit?
yeah, well, yeah, it would be based on that. Yeah, it would be a social credit, but it would be all under a fundamental control. I mean, honestly, everything you name a part of what we think is like modern day life without the way it's practically there anyway. Because if the internet went down in modern times, how much would end in terms of transference of money and the LIBOR system of insurance and how people buy things, sell things, all that is all based on digital age now. It's not done on just analog phones globally.
Yeah, we have I would say we have a mixed market economy. There's some socialistic elements to it, but it's predominantly free market. Supermodels as well. And oh wow, in the air fryer. So, but I don't think even though things have moved to digital now, it hasn't really changed the way I do things in my life much. Like before I had to use paper checks and now I can just press a button and my bank can send the check, but that's not that material of a change.
No, it is. It's a huge change because
Well, not
we what we
not
can
on a practical level. Like there's still nothing has changed that drastically that I could see with the way money and shopping and spending money and acquiring
but
money works.
but 20 years ago we couldn't do this. What we're doing now, we could probably, but it wouldn't be camera wise if you knew what you were doing. But now it's on a massive scale. This sort of social media to how people can generate their wealth and sell their product and create their product, right?
I'll try it.
And that aspect of how once upon a time ago a supercomputer would cost you 20 million pounds. Today, if you got £5,000 or 10 grand, you could build that equivalent today and make it private. And then you can run and generate all sorts of algorithms and math on that or whatever you do that, and whack it out there. So it is
But
real.
it's just an extension or expansion of
Yeah, but
existing
it's still
paradigms.
means
It
that.
doesn't seem anything that drastically new.
Yeah, but if you take that away from the modern man, if you will, if that had to just stop right now, how many people would just collapse and manic because they wouldn't have that? They wouldn't know what's going on. Their source of information. And oh my God, when banks have outages and they cost, how much money that costs? Just having an outage costs billions for a bank to deal with it because people have to have their money and I need to pay this and my mortgage needs to go through and that. And that's, again, it's not doing it on telephone and stamps and approvals and people in rooms anymore. It's done on computers. Bang, bang, bang. And so our reliance on these things has become greater than ever before. And again, the powers that be are throwing more money at this with robotics to take away the human operator, if you will, in factories and other sorts of jobs. Not just manual jobs, but like I said, like high-end technical jobs, because of the automaton that will come out, the laser, the way it can look and read and understand things that we put into it, as a deep learning and all that. That's happening now. It's live.
Zach, come up and help me help me explain it or understand it. Um, but I think, like you talked about doctors and lawyers losing their jobs to AI, but I think if these are smart people, when you displace that many smart people, they're gonna figure out some kind of. They're not gonna just passively go sit on the sidelines. They're too
I
intelligent.
don't, I don't, I don't think they will, but
Hey, Shift, you too.
But it just depends on if they know it's going to happen. Like it's done already.
Well, when they don't have their job anymore, they will
Yeah,
have figured it out.
yeah, because corporate is already kind of doing that. I mean, in respect to what Amazon are doing in some of the factories in this country and logistics, they're removing the human because the robot will work 24/7. It won't
Yeah, they're
steal.
replacing
Won't
it
take a
with
break.
something more effective.
Yeah,
Like we
well,
don't need
yes,
telephone operators anymore either.
yeah, yeah, of course, and we have an AI to do that, but it will peak and then it will crash because we won't have that money, the spending power. You can't just like tax these things. I don't know, let's tax a robot.
But I don't see a crash as inevitable. Like
Uh,
the other areas of the labor force that we've replaced with technology haven't crashed.
no, I
We've
mean,
just transitioned to another way of doing things.
I don't know. I've seen. I mean, as far as I can tell, I don't know how bad it is there, but the work ethic in these countries and jobs for boys, as they put them, people going to study things in university and then coming out with huge amounts of debt and actually having no real skill base. They don't. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's don't stop studying because it's important, but it seems that a lot of this has become just existential in some way. I'm important because of. Ugh. Instead of like, what do you actually, if you take your job, if you take what you do art, or like a banker, what the fucking banker do? He really just facilitates number crunching, you know? Or it's that sort of thing that I look at and think, fucking hell, your job actually is quite meaningless. And it's just put there just to create the money, generate wealth. Maybe that's how the West has done it because we're all GDP, aren't we? Even having a shit, flashing a chain is it generating some sort of money? And so they put the GDP on how much you will earn, how much you'll do, and then they borrow that off of you. Gross domestic product is all done on humans on that scale. So yeah, go figure.
Let's see, country like doctor. Oh, so he's saying they could just transfer to
I mean,
underserved areas and still be in demand.
well, they're putting down that so Europe is going through a detransition of industrialism, and it went to Asia and India, and now it's going to go to Africa. So the places that they can be the little okay zones, and Africa will be the new mining area. You know, well, not all of it because Africa is vast, just fucking absolutely vast. You forget how fucking large fucking the Sahara Desert is alone. But we could be way ahead of ourselves, I think, as humans, as humanity. But like when they put down, say, the Great Resets, if they say this word, is that because humanity becomes too smart for its own good? So we become
I'm not worried about
as
that,
a
Dave.
as a collective, we stop thinking that we don't require government or powers that be over us, the kings, the priests, the gods, and then
I
that.
already think that way. I don't
Well,
need those
I know,
people.
yeah, I know you do, yeah, but the masses, because lots of people are still just it's
That's
all about
kind.
the
But do the like that play? That's what Plato said. That the masses need that. They need guardians that manage them because they don't have the intellect to do things the way they're supposed to. And you have to feed them these noble lies and keep them kind of fooled so they'll behave. But that's so repulsive to me on a moral or maybe aesthetic level. I just can't see people that way. Like these they don't seem like they trust the masses very much, and they think that if they don't control them somehow, then the masses are gonna do other than what they think they should be doing or that they want them to do.
humans are weak, Jeff. We're weak. We're lazy, and like electricity, we
But
want the easiest
what's
route.
the
Right?
problem with that? We still
No,
have a
no, no,
society.
yeah,
Like
I don't think.
even being weak and lazy, we've created a remarkable like civilization.
I,
That's
yeah, but a lot of the stuff we're doing right now is navel gazing.
but what's wrong
Ex-
with that?
oh, because it relies on so many people that have to work up there because that's our taxation system in the West is again based on how much they can borrow off of how much we produce or give back. In England, it's the gilts, if you will. You guys have the market where you just raise your capital, your debt ceiling, and that debt is bought and then sold into the future at an interest and wada. And so that, by people just sitting around and hanging off for little scraps of that, it's an inevitable death. That's why the West is in a crisis at the moment, because we are going towards something where this money, what we have to pay back or whatever, where the fuck's it going? And mainly what the hell is it used for? War? That's just, these days you don't want, we should get over that already, but we won't. Because the powers that be, we want more, I guess.
What's the crisis we're in? Because I keep hearing that.
You don't think there is?
No, I think it's subjective. There's not an objective crisis. There's not like a asteroid headed toward us or anything. So it's some kind of subjective story they put together from all the things they see from social media, the little nuggets they get from the news.
In most places, I think in the world, so Japan has this, Europe has this, and America has this. There's a population collapse amongst the people. So we're getting older, and we're not having enough kids, and having enough kids young. So we're not stable enough. By the time we want kids, we're in our 30s and all that. Generally, this is how it's going because we don't have the ability to have a stable home, a good career. By the time my parents had us, they were in their 20s. Now generally, the families that are having it are late 20s or 30s. And that has detrimental effects.
So some people consider that a crisis, that we're not replacing ourselves.
Because we have to then import our workforce from outside to sustain the system of pensions and how that works for our later years, or raise the ceiling for the pensions, or tax the fuck out of us while we work, which then, aggravates the situation. That's... it is happening, no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I have heard that the birth rates are lower. I guess if our system depends on replenishing the future generations at the same rate as we have now, then that could be a problem. I don't know if I'd call it a crisis, but I could see where it could be a problem.
Yeah.
But I also think if that doesn't happen, we will just develop some other system or way of living that adapts to the new numbers. I think the worry from some people is that other cultures are replacing and replenishing.
Yeah, it feels that way. All right.
But that's not their fault. Like, hey, Zach.
All right.
What's going on with you? Do you think we're in a crisis?
What kind of crisis?
I don't know. Any kind. White people are not having kids as quickly as all the other people. Westerners, I should say.
Well, in Japan, they are inviting foreigners to come to the country to replace the workforce because they don't have enough children over there.
I did say Japan as well, yes.
And we're sending ours away, saying we don't need you here.
Well, because we are a service industry driven, economy, and there's enough teenagers in this country to serve you a latte and write your name on the cup and all that bullshit. But
until the robots take that away.
Yeah, until the robots take it away. Exactly.
So yeah, that's a good point. African, if we're gonna have robots, why do we need the same amount of humans in the next generation anyway?
Well, then that also takes that. Then we have to just depopulate, right? And then as humans go towards this inevitable,
but that's the crisis.
But then it becomes all luxury, and we'll lose track of what it is to be the struggle of humanity and the competitiveness, I guess. Or we have to learn to cooperate better. Cooperation.
I think what African is saying is that he would like to bring back the gas chambers on a
No, of course I would not.
To eliminate.
I thought he was just saying build more robots.
No, that is not.
I was hearing Jetsons more than gas chambers.
I think we're doing that to ourselves anyway.
Did you know that Hitler was the first to perform hotboxing? Because
I know hot boxing is something you do when you smoke weed. Oh, is that what you're
yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Oh, that's stop it, you. Hey,
Uh,
Kitty Box, welcome. We're uh, we're talking the crisis, like the West is disappearing. It's not growing itself at the same rate it used to. That's
Are we producing more fucking idiots that don't know what's going on and have too much of an opinion about, again, existential angst?
We've always had idiots though, and they've always had opinions. I
Why
don't
don't,
know how you fix that.
those men that went out to, create America, if you will, what they were running from? It
They
was
were
capital that
exceptional
pushed it.
people
Same,
too.
same as no, but same as when the Reformation in Europe, not just from Lutheran, came through. That was also because of the gains of capitalism. Because the Catholics would be the ones with the money, the power, and the breakaway from that gave us, a rise and drive to do what we want with our money and our wealth. It wasn't now for the church to tell us that anymore.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so there we go. So that spread came out that way as well. From a minute amount that lots of people went, yeah, you know what, that works for me. And no matter what the religion was, the same fucking God, different ways of interpretation of that, but bang, And so these great, what do they call it? What do they call it? Ugh, I can't think right now. I'll get to myself. I'm gonna go grab another beer anyway.
Okay.
oh, he drinks.
Every day, every day, Browns. Every single day. I've spent my life battling Actually, you don't have to. If you know how to handle yourself and them right, you don't have to fight the tards all the time.
I honestly believe that people act as though they're going to live forever. They feel as though now they're here and they are cemented here and they will be here forever. And that's why they act the way that they act. But I mean, if they really thought about the fact that, they could die at any second from a heart attack or fall down, just the support of the hand of God has been withdrawn and now you are dead that fast. I mean, would they live their lives the way that they live it, and would they act the way they act? I mean, they don't. It never enters into their conscious thought, apparently.
No, I mean, who wants to live that way?
Well, I
Think
live that way,
like
and I don't
thinking you
want to
could
live
die
that
any
way.
second.
Yeah, I know I could die any second. In fact, I kind of welcome it, because why not? I mean, it's going to happen eventually. You might as well
Yeah,
get
but
it over.
why rush it? Like,
Yeah, but okay, what's so great about here that I need to be sticking around? You know?
well, I don't know. What's the alternative to
Un-
not here?
unlike unlike you,
I'm not in
McDonald's,
that big of a rush to open that particular gift. I
unlike
can
you,
wait till Christmas morning.
French fries don't mean much to me anymore, and I've had it.
You'd be giving up a lot.
Like what? What?
Whatever about your life that you do currently enjoy and appreciate.
Okay,
It's
I enjoy playing music with people, but
there you go. There's
it's
one.
probably never gonna happen again, at this
You were
point.
playing with some guy the other day.
Yeah, but it wasn't
Hey, Busker.
it wasn't what I'm looking for.
Well, I don't know if like annihilation is the alternative, just because it's not quite what you were looking for. What's up, Busker?
Hey,
Not much, man. I gotta say though, McDonald's fries, once they stop using tallow, They just went down.
They weren't the
You
same.
notice it? You notice a difference?
Oh,
Yeah,
Really?
know.
absolutely.
Yeah. He's right.
I had a big 30-year gap, but they taste, in my mind, as good or better than I remember them.
Well,
What?
McDonald's fries. Do y'all have those over there?
Well, Jeff,
Uh,
let me tell you something. I have this potato cutter, right? I literally went downstairs and I took 2 potatoes and all I did was peel them, and you don't even have to, just wash them, and then you put them through this thing. It's like a
That grid,
potato.
that
Yeah. Good,
uh-huh.
yeah. And then you have French fries. You throw them in the air fryer. 11 minutes later, you have fries. It's that easy.
And you think they're as good as McDonald's?
well, they're not
No,
as
no, but
they're not as like
They don't have tallow.
not
it
as
depends how much salt you
centered.
put on them.
They don't have what, Busker?
No, hang on. But don't the McDonald's fries that they use as a particular potato, and they're prone to those eyes, so they actually they actually put a lot of pesticide on them or something that makes them. Then they have to actually put them in a big.
You have to go and ruin it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but that's the whole point of
I
actually
love
having.
my pesticide fries. I'm not
Oh
gonna say
yeah,
anything.
they let it reach out for a few weeks, I think, before they process them.
They use a very
Wow, you
specific.
know more about McDonald's fries than I do as an American.
Well,
No, they use a very specific type of potato, and that's what the difference is. It's like, how many times have I said, where did they get the pickles for McDonald's hamburgers? Like,
Where
I
do
would
they
love
get
to. Yeah, I would love to get those pickles.
I gotta say, man, the junk food pickles, I haven't been liking them at all lately. They just kind of taste weird.
Well, I had some pickles that were like natural from a farm recently, and they tasted fucking weird to me. They didn't have the amount of dill that I'm used to.
Yeah, I mean, like what I think of a good dill pickle chip is like the old maybe even the current pickles you buy at the shopping center. They're more better quality than the fast food pickles, I think, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know, man. I mean, I love the fast food pickles. I mean, to me,
They're just slimy and like really.
The ones on the
Yeah.
McRib are
They're
good.
not
And the
crisp.
chicken sandwich.
to me, the best part of a quarter pounder is the pickle.
Yeah.
And you have it like the grocery store slices are not the same. You haven't found.
They're not the same.
Do you guys try and make your own food from the start? Try source the meat, grind the meat, do the fat. Try and make your own pickle. You ever done that? Make your own
My
bread.
family
I
does.
I
not
grow-
me personally.
I grow my own beef, and I torture it with cattle prod.
So no, you
Jeff, you grew up
I
in
don't you rear beef, by the way. You don't grow it unless you're doing it.
Yeah, we do that with pigs and.
No, I
stuff.
grow it on plants. It's
And they have a
called
lot of butcher
Impossible-
shops around.
It's called
Those are very
Impossible
common.
beef.
The sliver. I love the McDonald's onions. The little tiny diced.
Yeah,
the onions are good. I like the onions. They're cool.
right. And they're white onions. They're not red onions. Red
But
onions.
they don't taste oniony. They have their own, like, unique little flavor to them.
Nah, fuck red onions.
They kind of taste grilled a little bit.
Make a pickle with the red onion. That's nice, and I do like red onion.
No,
But make a pickle with
that's
red
wrong.
onion. For instance,
That's
like
wrong.
water, vinegar, some peppercorns, maybe a bit of chili in there. Yeah, a bit of sugar as well. Mix it up in a jar. Stick your onions in there.
I wouldn't take food advice from British people for anything.
Yeah, I don't know if you're a religious man, but red onions are strictly prohibited.
What for Jews? No, they're
They're
not. Why is
okay.
that?
I mean, like if they're fresh and they're on a burger, they're okay.
See, we're gonna be okay. We were talking about the global crisis, and now we're talking about fast food. We're gonna be just
Yeah,
fine.
there you go.
Red onions are for poor people.
How much of a crisis could it be?
Shallots are great. I really like bone broth. So I try and make that quite, when you do in
Bone
a pressure
bone
cooker.
broth.
Bone
Like
broth in
what?
a pressure cooker, yeah. No, bone broth in a pressure cooker, and then
Oh
you
yeah,
steam that, yeah,
What are
and
you
then you
saying? Bone
bone
broth?
broth,
bone
bone broth.
broth.
Yeah, they
Oh,
sound
bone
like
broth. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
bone
bone
broth.
broth. I love bone broth. I always have some in the freezer. I always use my chickens, and I make a broth from that, depending on which one, and I always freeze it. So if I ever make something, I pull that out and I start from the base upwards. Food is fucking important, man.
it's
And it's really, really important for us to understand nutrition.
it's
And
funny.
and
Like
again,
I,
food brings people together from all nations. Bang. It's
Yeah.
something that we should always love, and Mother Earth gives that to us for nothing.
when I think of bone broth, I think like the only time I
The
ever
work.
heard it to begin with, first time I ever heard it was Alex Jones like blabbing about his products, and bone broth was one of them. I thought it was like a joke or something, but like I was like, bone broth. Alex Jones is selling bone broth. Like the conspiravangelist selling his bone broth. It's kind of, whatever. But yeah, I guess yeah. I bet it's good. The real thing.
Fantastic, man.
I would think it's nutritious, right? I mean,
Yeah,
and
very good
Oh,
food.
yeah.
So do you guys like French onion soup?
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, I love making French like that and using bone broth instead of just beef stock. And
I've
then
Yeah.
never done it that way, but now you've given me an idea. Thank you, sir.
yeah,
Because
man, you love that, bro. Yeah, you love that.
Like
It's
the
actually
soups,
something you're like, oh shit, I feel great.
soups my parents used to make. They used to make sure the bones were in the soup. Is that considered bone broth too?
No,
yeah,
so
I
well,
guess.
you're leaching them out, but you should, make the bone broth separate to that, and then
Mm.
take the fat off. There's ways of doing it. So once you do the bone broth, you roast your bones, and then scrape that crap out and make it bang. Well, or you pressure cook it, and you put
Yeah.
it in a jar. Turn your jar upside down and put that in the fridge. Yeah, because then
Yeah.
when you actually stir it up, all the fat is there. Bang, take the fat out. It's easier than sieving it.
Wow, man, it doesn't sound like a hard process.
But it is worth it. Like that's why you have to do these things at volume, bigger volumes, make it cheaper later on. It's effort, but we have modern day freezers and ways of
Yeah,
storing it.
freeze it up. Yeah.
Yeah, and also if you take your bone broth and then put it back in a jar, and then you put that into your pressure cooker and you seal it, that bone broth can last you for like a year, easy
Wow.
on the shelf
Yeah.
in a dark place.
What
Yeah,
what kind of stuff do you use it in?
anything, soups, bases, you know, stocks.
You could
Great.
probably make a good gumbo with it too.
Yeah,
Bone
oh,
gumbo.
bang
With
it,
brew,
yeah,
with like adding
yeah.
brew, that would be awesome.
You know what a bisque is? I really like bisque. So like a lobster bisque. I
Uh-huh.
make that. Oh my! It's so rich because there's so much butter and brandy and stuff. But it's now and again you make ravioli with something, and you put that on top, and you show it off to people. Even you're like, holy crap! What is this in my mouth? you know, because fats are what we crave. It's good for the
Yeah,
brain.
that's where the flavor
Good for the
is.
brain. That's the one thing. Really good for us. And so
Yeah, cholesterol is good for you, but unfortunately,
well, the wrong cholesterol, isn't it? There's good fats and bad fats, but it's how much you need every day, or well, generally.
like from like what I've been hearing about the brain and the spine, the myelin sheath is made up of cholesterol. I think that's the main component of the myelin. I could be wrong, but that's what I just heard.
What is the
The
sheep
myelin
brain?
sheath on the brain and the spine. And I find that when I eat lots of cholesterol, my brain works a little better. So I don't know. Maybe that's a coincidence, but yeah, like eggs. Like people keep telling me I shouldn't eat raw eggs, but I've been doing it
You
for
eat
a
raw
while.
eggs?
Yeah, I mean, like I wash off I take 100% rubbing alcohol, wash off the shell, crack the shell, put it in the cup, take it down like a shot, and I've never had any problems with it. Everybody's like, "Aren't you afraid of getting salmonella?" But like from what I hear, is it comes from the shells that has the salmonella, and that's why I wash it off with rubbing alcohol.
Well, you can get some
My
level
uncle
from
used to put a raw egg in his milkshakes every day.
Yeah, I
It's
mean
fine.
they
There's a
use
guy in the back named Dave. Anybody know?
Dave who?
I don't know. Dave, if you have a channel, drop your channel in the back so I could check you out and see what you're about, and let me know what you want to talk about, and then I'll bring you on.
You ever had this, Jeff?
No, kombucha. No. It looks gross. I don't think I could ever.
Kombucha. I love
Isn't
kombucha.
it fermented?
It's, kombucha's the best, man. Good man. I like you, Busker.
Yeah,
I like kimchi and stuff. The your gut is so important. What you have is culture.
I'm not too fond of kimchi, but like, I guess if I had nothing else to eat,
Dave, it's just because you're new here. I need to vet you a little bit. Then I could bring you on.
Yeah, just have him put on it, like show him his face to you. You know how it works.
If you have a channel, just drop the link in the back, and I'll check it out. Oh, no channel. Okay. Right. Or just let me know what you up here to talk about.
So, Plastic African, are you from South Africa?
I grew up there.
Okay.
I grew up there. I grew up in Botswana and Namibia. Those three countries. I spent some time in there, mainly South Africa, in the Transvaal or Gauteng province. You know, north of Johannesburg. Botswana's up on the plateau in a place called Gaborone, and then Windhoek or Windy Corner in Namibia. Beautiful places, I tell you.
I hear in South Africa there was some sort of genocide on whites.
Yeah, maybe Trump will let you immigrate here.
I have a brother there, Jeff. He's got a family there and stuff. So I don't know. I don't think I'd want to. Maybe, hopefully, more about Britain.
All right, I'm gonna this Dave. Who I want to bring you on, but I just need what you. You seem very animated back there, but I can't hear anything you're saying.
Tell him to show his face to you.
He is. He's cammed up. He's just. I don't know who he is. Do you have a channel? You said no channel.
Just ask him what he wants to talk about.
Can you type in the private chat what you want to talk about, or how you found us, or what you want to? I have an overlay I can bring you on under.
There you go.
All right, Dave. I'll take a risk. What's up?
I just saw, two things. First, I saw the kombucha and the ferments. Where do you live? Are you on the west coast of BC, of Canada or the US? Or
no, I'm on the east coast of America in Baltimore, Maryland.
That kombucha you showed, that's really popular out in Canada too.
Yeah, it's become like seriously popular in America. Like it's always at the store.
Have you ever tried Rise?
What's that?
Rise brand, like RIS.
I think I might have had that once.
That's my favorite brand, I think.
Yeah, I'll try that one again.
They have the least amount of floaties, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Actually, this stuff doesn't have any floaties unless, it sits around too long.
What? It's fermented what? They have it at the coffee shops up here.
It's tea.
Patty.
Well, so what they...
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're good, B-More. I just showed up.
No, you go ahead, man. You explain it because I don't know the process.
As far as I know, you start with a tea, and you can use any black tea, I think. I could be wrong about that.
I think,
and then you can add
black and green tea. I think.
Okay, green tea, and then you can add berries, or some people even add like savory stuff, like cinnamon or like
It's
what else?
fermented tea, it looks like.
Yeah, it is. But you can
Tea
add like
fungus.
spices, you can add fruits, all different things to get different flavors.
But I think it starts like the main thing about it. It's like this patty of like live cultures, I think.
You're right. Yeah, the SCOBY or whatever.
Yeah, and then they mix it with a green tea or do something with it, infuse it, whatever. And I gotta say, Health Aid is my favorite. I don't Kavita. I can do without. They used to be kind of good. I don't like the sparkling probiotics anymore. They're gross, dude.
I find the smaller batch kombucha breweries are often more vinegary and have more floaties, which is like when my aunt was trying to make kombucha there. It was
That's how
just
it turned out.
yeah.
Oh man, yeah, dude. So like, that's the kind of the floaties and the vinegar taste. That's the Kavita has that pretty bad in some of them.
And so when that's somebody's first experience with kombucha, it's like you don't want to try it again.
Right? Exactly, dude. I don't know why I got addicted to it. I don't know.
Well, if you have a good one, it can be almost refreshing.
Absolutely. I drink it with meals. I mean, like, it helps to have bubbles with my meals, and I don't like sparkling water. And sodas I can do with, mostly without, because sugar, I get enough of that, you know. I don't need sodas and high fructose corn syrup.
And I heard you saying you like raw eggs.
Yeah, I've been well, like, and all this fucking fear porn about the bird flu, and even my neurologist is like, have you ever heard of salmonella? I know.
Well, bodybuilders have been doing it forever.
I know, that's right. Like, I remember the first time I ever saw anybody do that was on
Rocky?
Entertainment Tonight with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's like got
True.
this whole big glass of raw eggs, and he just downs it all. And I'm just like, dude, that must be gross. But it's not that gross, actually. It like, especially when you like sprinkle some like salt in it, or
I think it's gross, but I'm not judging you. Like, I know people.
No, I mean,
I
it is
think it's
gross.
gross.
It's like, maybe not.
Do you notice a flavor? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Is there a flavor? Like,
well, the flavor, there's no flavor in the white like that. That's like
okay.
clear. But the yolk tastes wonderful. You just let it explode in your mouth, like, just like, you know,
Like an oyster.
You know, that's kind of true, right? Because like sometimes you want to like with Asian food, you get like a hard boiled egg, but the yolk is soft. Like a soft yolk is nice. So like, yeah,
dude.
Dave, are you in Ireland? Are you Irish?
No, I'm in Canada. Do I sound Irish?
Oh, yeah, you sound Irish.
That's
oh,
probably
Lord.
the like East Coast Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Dave.
You're East Canadian.
The other thing I saw you guys talking about there that I wanted to ask about, and it was funny because
A boot. I just heard it.
Plastic African there said he is in Botswana, Africa, and I forget, it was either Jeff or Buster there who asked about the sort of like conflict right now between the white people that have been living in Africa and the African like black population. I'm just interested, is there? Because I had exactly when he was asking that question, I was saying the same thing in my head. I'm like, is that a thing or no?
I don't know. He's in the UK now, but he grew up in South Africa.
White genocide. I think there was some white genocide in South Africa. I don't know how recent it was, but
I feel like white genocide could be a broad, like a kind of an maybe
too broad of a
or like too extreme of a term, and just in like when you think of like genocides, I mean, like there's been some worse genocides. Like I don't know. I did hear that there was a bit of like a cultural war or tension going on between like farmers.
The Boers.
I think a lot of people were fucked or killed in South Africa. That's from like what I heard. It sounded really kind of heart-wrenching.
South African farm attacks. Wikipedia has an article on it. Violent crimes including murder, assault, and robbery. The attacks target both white and black farmers, though, it looks like.
Okay. Then I guess.
So
Yeah,
they
like
say
that's
it's the white genocide part is widely regarded as a myth and a false narrative.
There you
so
go.
that's why anytime I meet someone from an area where I'm hearing things about, I'm interested to get their perspective, because if bro, the internet has turned into this sort of like mental warfare chamber of like
Yeah.
hearing something that you can believe, and then you talk to someone over there, they're like, that's not at all what's going
Like
on.
the way I
And
see it is like when I hear something these days, I wouldn't be surprised if it was true. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. You know,
Because
yeah,
people have their trusted sources and they just swallow whatever
there's
the
really no
sources say.
trusted sources out there. I don't think. I mean, like if enough people
Whatever Alex Jones says, they believe it.
see, that's stupid. Like when you focus on one stupid person and believe everything
Well,
person says.
with the internet, there's not just one to focus on.
anytime I digest an opinion, I try to search up an opposing one to that, just to see what the arguments are.
Where did this guy come from? There's like you're you're not the ordinary internet user. That's what I do too. I have multiple sources I look at. I don't rely on just one source.
Yeah, I mean, like once you got enough people, see, that's what happened with COVID, right? Everybody thought, oh yeah, it's real, and you're gonna kill your grandpa, you're gonna kill your grandma. You don't get the jab, you don't wear the mask, but lo and behold, it was all bullshit.
And I'm torn on that too. Like, I didn't get jabbed, but then my grandma is always telling me how relieved she is that she got the latest vaccine. And it's like, I mean, she's happy that she hasn't had any health issues with it.
Oh, that's good. I mean, like some people are not lucky with it, and a lot of people are not lucky with it.
I had a job I applied to recently, and it was required. If I had taken the position, I would have had to get.
Of course, I mean, everybody has to show that like they're like given some sort of incentive to make sure everybody gets jabbed. That's the way they did it in COVID, and that's the way they continue to do it.
I almost view it right now as almost like religion. Like if you're going to church, that's totally fine, dude. I might not be there, but like do it if it makes you feel better.
But
yeah, just don't get it on me.
When it's
don't
on people, that is heinous.
Yeah, totally.
And it's been like that for how many years now?
Well, Bobby K just got confirmed, so.
Well, let's hope
we'll see what happens with that.
Or I don't know. I just have this feeling that he won't be able to stop these people. They're so fucking rich.
Who's the people that nobody's forcing jabs?
No, you know, the people are the rich corporations that all they want to do. They don't care if billions of people die. They just got to sell their fucking product.
But what product is killing billions of people?
Oh my God!
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there are definitely products killing lots of people. If you want to talk about like the painkiller industry,
yet. It's not billions yet, but it's millions.
No, billions. You're right. That's a big number. I just mean like in terms of the opioid crisis and how many people get addicted to things right out of like having a.
Yeah, I was talking to Jeff. I'm sorry. Yeah, dude. Like my dad's like he masturbates the fucking vax. He loves it. And he got a real bad side effect from the was it Moderna, Pfizer?
Yeah. Oh.
And his leg was so full of blood clots that it looked like a big giant log, and he was coughing up blood. They were blood clots, and well, his leg got real giant after his booster, his first booster. And luckily, people convinced him to stop doing that because it was like an addiction for him. But then, of course, yeah, like, oh, the flu vax is out. We got to get the flu vax. Dad, didn't you just have a real bad experience? He didn't even think about it. He acted like it didn't happen. A lot of people are like that. Act like it doesn't happen. There's no danger. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy, I hope he gets in there, and I hope he does us good. Because we need it. But we don't need 80 million. Dude, that's another thing I saw. there was this guy talking about 80 million more vaccines for America and COVID vaccines for America, and Donald Trump is just sitting there, not disagreeing, nothing. So there's a lot of things I like about Trump, but one thing is Operation Warp Speed to begin with, from way back, and then now it's this guy who's not even in the fucking government standing next to him talking about all this mRNA shit and COVID vaccines and 80 million secured for America. 80 million vaccines. Now, I thought we were past all that.
Well, it's probably going to be like the flu shot every year. People can get it if they want it.
Sick,
It'll
dude.
be optional.
I mean, like, dude, you don't know how many people have suffered from this shit, dude. You have no clue.
But nobody's being forced into it. It's just like the flu vaccine. You don't have to get it.
Well,
some people want to get it every year.
How many years did they force people to get the vaccine if they wanted to keep their fucking job? And if you wanted to get the fucking job, if you wanted to go to school.
But so I think most places have moved away from that. That's why this job that I was talking about, that I applied for recently, it was odd to see them require the vaccine.
Yeah, there you go.
In 2025.
That's what I mean. That's what my point is, dude. It's never going to end. People are making money hand over fist, back and forth. They're all circled.
I don't know if it's at the scale that you think. I think for like the COVID stuff, most people have moved on from. They're not
moved on. Okay.
Yeah, most people that are currently getting COVID vaccines are doing it because they want to keep their immunity updated. It's not because anybody's forcing them.
I feel bad for them then.
I would agree that like it's shitty, but it's the same thing as like, I mean, there's a number of. It's different, but like, look how many people choose to take a painkiller after they have a giant surgery, and then it fucks them up in a different way. Like like it's like 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Well, that's a usual thing. That's tested, and we know what the problem is with that.
But we're starting to learn what the problem is with this.
Everybody's been the guinea pig for that bullshit. Thank God I didn't get it. But everybody's been the guinea pig that wanted it or had to get it. They're all and that's heinous.
You're right. Like you're right that
westernized
only people who were like, I was self-employed, so I never had to get it. But
that's great, man.
My roommate's sister was part of the trials, the vaccine trials, when they were first developing them. So we got to follow. She would give us updates as she'd go through it. And we got to follow the process of. I forgot which company. It was one of the big ones. And so we watched her go through it, and she was fine. At each step, she would report back.
That's good, man. That's good. That's good. I just know enough people that have gotten damaged from it that
no vaccine is no medication.
No,
like forget vaccines. There's not a single medication, even like Tylenol, that there's not some side effects for some humans somewhere because our bodies are so.
I know you're ignorant to this, but it's on a mass scale, whether you realize it or not. I gotta go, man.
I haven't heard any side effects on a mass scale.
Man, you have not been doing any research. What do you?
Where in the States are you guys?
Playing video games?
I'm in Washington State, which is American-speaking Canada.
You're off the charts, dude. I'm sorry, I can't talk about this. This is just
one thing I would say is that like.
He believes that there were side effects on a mass scale, and I haven't seen evidence of that. And this is a sticking point for us, frequently.
It's no, it's interesting because it's one of those things where I can't confirm or deny either side because it's something I've been trying to realize more and more is that what we read on the internet in an echo chamber isn't necessarily what's going on outside.
Right,
and if you were to ask 100 people online and 100 people at the supermarket their opinion, it would be so different, I think. Like the in-person to this, it's like the internet has its own opinion when you're on it. Or
the Twitter bubble is what I know it as. Where are the supermarket people getting their stories from? Is it just news, like television stations, like we used to.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe that. Yeah,
I'm
I don't
trying to
know.
think of my family because almost none of them are on the internet, and they get most of it through the gossip when they hang out with their friends. Wherever their friends heard it, they pass it on through the grapevine, and that's how they get most of it. So
Right.
if it's coming from TV news stations, which is where it used to come from when I was growing up, it was more centralized. Like you didn't have 10 different stories about something, you might have two or three different stories about something.
Right. And there's also like one thing about the COVID vax that I thought was weird, when it was becoming mandatory and like jobs were at stake and all this kind of stuff, to see how many people, I'm trying to think of like ways to word this. I think that there's probably like 50 or more percent of the people who actually took it because they were afraid and they just listened. Which is almost like something to be, it's almost like a demonstration of where people are at in terms of how easily they're able to be persuaded by their government to just do what they're told. And I know the vaccine is not the same as like quote unquote like Nazi Germany, but there was a time when everybody in Germany, young and old, were being told to do and act a certain way. And you can't think that all those people wanted to be acting or doing that, but they were afraid of being wrong or you know what I mean? Like being thrown in jail or whatever. I just wonder with the vaccine how much of that
It,
went on.
I didn't do it because of government telling me. I did it because I understand medical science and vaccines. Like COVID was not the first vaccine in human history. And
No.
people do that all the time. If they have a medical condition and there's suddenly a new pill or some kind
You
of
must
new
have had some,
cure.
okay, so but you must have had some questions like in your head before you did it. Like there
No,
was
I
no,
didn't because I had a few friends that actually work in the pharmaceutical
and
research
they were like,
industry, and they explained, like they were able to give us some behind the scenes explanation of
okay,
a lot of it, and I
right.
trusted them. So I'm like, okay, they work in this field and they're saying it's okay, so I feel a lot better about it. But I'm not skittish about medical science in general. Like vaccines don't make me nervous in general. I would take a vaccine for anything because they usually do the trick. So it wasn't. It did. The vaccines didn't scare me. I didn't have a fear that they were this new technology. Or I guess I trust medical science because I've seen it work more often than not.
Right. Yeah, no, and like that's how old are you if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'll be 55.
Okay, true. And so I'm 32. So like what and you're kind of like my parents' generation. They
Yeah,
had
I'm
me
Gen
young.
X. You're probably millennial.
92. So um
Yeah, that's millennial-ish.
yeah. Um they have the same opinion as you, which is like completely valid. My only thing with it is that I feel like my generation gets exposed to so much of this weird conspiracy bullshit that maybe yours didn't at a young age. Do you know what I mean? Like all this,
We
like,
had it, but it was fringe. You had to go hunt for it. And
really
very few, there were like AM radio stations at midnight you could tune in and get some of it. And it was a very few people on the edges of society that might be talking
interesting.
about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So for me, I had that in the back of my head when vaccines came out. And so in the back of my head, I'm always like, is this what we're being told it is? Is it something
So you
else?
had some suspicion from the start.
100%. And that's why I didn't get it. And
Did you have that about other things before COVID, like just with government in general?
not in my life until basically 9/11 and people started questioning things and looking at things with a different angle. Uh, and that basically started kind of for me and my my friends and stuff, at least that I'm like close to, the start of like looking at things online a little bit different, or like, oh, what's this story? And like, I'm not going to advocate every single conspiracy. Like, I don't know if people landed on the moon or not. I'm not going to yell at people that they didn't, because I
They
don't
did.
know. You know? Yeah, exactly. And which is interesting because my dad thinks they didn't, and he's your age. But like, I don't. It's just stuff like that that I question. I don't take any of them super seriously. But yeah, I definitely had fear about the vaccine. Fear enough to like be like, I think I just don't want to get it. I don't know.
Did like here in the U.S., I grew up. You get vaccinated as a kid to go to public school, and then you like
Totally,
update it every 10 years or stuff. Do they in Canada? Is that
100%. There's like an HPV. There's a
yeah,
um,
measles, mumps?
yeah, all that.
They're
I had
always
all
adding
that.
new stuff into that. So the idea of getting vaccinated wasn't that out
No,
of the ordinary to me.
and I was just in elementary school. I didn't question any of that. Uh,
Some of it is mistrust in government, and I guess I don't have the same. The government's never given me a reason to mistrust it on that scale. Like, and I watched the COVID response as it was happening because I was up here in Seattle, and they were very practical, scientifically minded people. Like, okay, let's look at the data and figure out what we. They didn't seem like they were trying to do something sinister. They seemed like they were
right.
trying to understand the situation and come up with the best response to it.
Which is another way of looking at things, is maybe all this conspiracy minded shit is actually the bad shit that's pulling away people's minds from where we actually need to be. Like, I don't know that the conspiracy isn't a conspiracy. Does that, you know what I mean? Like,
That I lean toward that way. I'm one of the
yeah,
few people. I talk on my channel all the time. I try to debunk conspiracies with facts and evidence all the time, but I seem to be in the minority when I'm doing that because I get
one
a
of my
lot
best
of
friends is like that,
pushback.
and it makes for good conversation because he'll open my eyes to a lot of opinions I didn't have. And that's why I've come to a point where I honestly feel like I'm in the middle of this like mental battleground.
Where what tell me a little bit about you. What's your story, your background? How did you how are you positioned in all of this? You said 9/11 was when some of it started. Like it
Like for
never crossed my mind as at one time to doubt what happened on 9/11. Like I was in my early 30s. I watched it on TV when it happened. It seemed to be exactly
I think
what they were telling us it was.
the doubt for me starts with just I don't think those buildings would have collapsed the way they did with planes like driving into them. I think there was more happening, more orchestrated than I think something about it was orchestrated based on just certain people's uh like recollections of that day, where certain people were, how certain things happened.
Did you come up with that on your own from watching the videos, or were you reading articles or like watching internet stuff that was suddenly opening your eyes to things you might not have noticed before?
The latter. Yeah.
Oh.
Like, yeah, it does make sense to me that just I don't know, something about watching the videos of the planes, the delay of the collapse. Like, if it was going to be the planes that made the building collapse, it would have been more immediate.
So were
I
the
just
planes a decoy? Like the planes were fake. Why would they need the planes at all? They could just blow up. They've tried to blow up skyscrapers before in the past. They could have just blown up the towers. Why would they even need to fool people with planes? That seems extreme. Because it looked to me, and all I
yeah,
got was really the television footage that the planes hit the building and the buildings collapsed. It seemed pretty straightforward. So if it was something other than that, that's a very elaborate. That's more elaborate of a plot than if they had just gone ahead and blown up the buildings without the planes.
there's just things about, like, I guess it's just, there is something strange for me when I watch the video, and I can't like put, because I'm not a fucking architect or an engineer. I mean, I can't really verify anyone's opinion, but when I think about, so the building was strong enough for the plane to not go through the entire building. So the building's this long, but it was strong enough to make the building collapse when it had all the support from, I mean, it happened at the top of the building. If it happened down here, it would make sense. Like,
So, like, just the roof should have been damaged. Like, the top part should have been damaged, but the building itself
if the
should.
plane, you think like a plane flying in the air, it's going fast. If it hits a building, that building must be pretty strong for it to not go all the way through. Like, it just kind of went into the side and stopped. So that's all right. That tells me that it's a strong ass building. And then the bottom of the thing just gave away. I don't know. Like,
I'm trying to find footage of it now. I wonder if we can show it on here.
again, I'm not 100% that what I'm saying is like, oh, I believe this. It was just kind of the start of me being like, oh, maybe like maybe there's just more to the things we're told, that, you know, they're keeping us on a storyline or some shit. But then that also sounds schizophrenic, and I'm like, oh, maybe not. You know, like I feel so in the middle of what to believe. And a lot of it has to come to do with, like, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to be on one side and then that whole other side is like, we told you. I'd like to be like, yeah. I
actually respect the position you're in more. You at least are trying to find out what reality is. You're not making an
Yeah.
assumption on one side or the other, because I think blind trust is not. I tend to be trusting. I trust until I have a reason not to. And for the most part, I feel like I can trust my government. I don't have a blind trust in it, but I more or less trust them until I have a reason not to. And the other extreme is complete distrust or paranoia or suspicion. So I admire that you haven't taken a position yet until you have enough evidence or facts to lean you one way or the other. That
but
you're trying to align you're letting facts and reality be your guide, and
but
not.
it's hard because it feels like mental warfare. Like that, like, and I keep seeing things again, this might be a conspiracy, but I keep seeing things online, certain, actually not so much online as more in like weird sort of like subcultures. Like a lot of punks talk about it. A lot of guys in like the metal scene have been talking about it for a long time, but like a mental war, that like there is so much information and misinformation and things to guide you in different ways that you have to have a really fucking strong mind right now to be able to just get through.
Yes.
And there's something about that, again, I don't know if that's a conspiracy or what, but I do believe that there's a bit of a mental war going on.
Like an information war. And there, I mean, there, like,
Yeah.
there's so many, there's the ability for pretty much any individual anywhere on the planet to introduce information into the information ecosphere now. So
Totally.
in a way, that is kind of always potentially true, that people will be putting out misleading information for their own purposes. So you have to be an educated consumer of information, and you have to have ways of deciding what's probable and what's less plausible, and like finding credible sources, knowing which sources you can more or less rely on and which ones less so.
And that's something I
And
really
multiple
struggle with.
sources, not just relying on one single source.
Right.
Dialogue like this and conversation to try to compare notes and sense make together.
Because my friend one of my best friends, he's very much similar to like what you're saying, that he trusts the government and he doesn't really follow conspiracy. Sorry, where was I going with that? And sometimes I wonder, like, being grounded in an opinion might be better for, like, so I'll read something and quote it to him, and he'll be like, "Who said that?" And I'll say the name, and he'll be like, "Oh, well, that guy did this, this, and this. This is why he's written off." And I'll be like, "Shit," because I thought it sounded right, you know. And
And he could still be right about that one thing, even if he did
that's
in
a
the
thing,
past.
right? Yeah,
So some of it is it's there's facts and there's stories about facts, and determining what's actually a fact. Like how do you sift through what is a fact, and then how do you interpret those facts? How do you place them into a narrative which gives them some kind of meaning when you connect them together?
do
And
you follow
so the
history?
misinformation in either comes when what they're dealing with is not a fact, it's not something that is actually true or happened, or they're taking something that is a fact, but they're putting it into an interpretation that doesn't
Right.
correspond with reality.
Yeah.
And I think this is an opportunity for people to really learn to use their minds and their critical thinking and their intellect. Oh, you were in Effigy. Effigy, come up. I didn't know you were in the 9/11 conspiracy. I got sucked into RussiaGate, so I'm not immune from conspiracies myself. Um,
Interesting.
and when I was around for 9/11, I was an adult. I was working. I had a life out. The internet wasn't really
Not
where most
this.
people got their news from. So it was just a news story on TV in the background that people followed. And so for me, I didn't really have a reason to think anything weird about it. Like none of my friends did. We kind of just took it as what it looked like. And so the truther, is that when the truther started, was 9/11? That started somewhere outside of my sphere of attention at the time, because it wasn't common discourse in mainstream professional circles, and there was more of a mainstream back then because
For
information
sure.
was more centralized. I don't think there is a single narrative about anything anymore these days. There's at least two or three
Yeah,
from
that's true.
what people consider mainstream sources. So there's not just a narrative. But back then there more or less was. Discernment is key. Yes, but that's the and philosophy's been dealing with this since Greece, since it started. How do you know what is the best method of discerning, and how do you know when you have that discernment or not? How do you know when you have knowledge? And what's opinion? How do you separate opinion from knowledge? And what is true knowledge? How do you know when you have it? And what are the techniques to finding it?
Yeah.
And so much of our world now is mediated for us by media, social media. We're getting a third-hand picture from our computer screens at a distance, and we have to make our best guesses.
I
Because
must
none of
say,
us were like, unless you're on the ground when it's happening, none of us really know. It's all secondhand gossip.
yeah, well, it's interesting because I'll come on these like panels and stuff and meet a lot of people from the States. It's just interesting to see the difference and the similarities. Like what do you not to change the topic, but like what are some things you think about Canada or like what goes on here? Do you know what I mean? Like I'd be interested to know.
Well, we have a Canadian that hangs out here regularly
Okay,
in the
true.
chat and does not give me a good impression of Canada.
Oh no.
Um, what my because I live in Seattle and it's the Seattle area, and the
Oh,
culture
cool.
is very similar to Canada. Um,
I I just spent 12 years on Vancouver Island, so just across from
oh,
you.
just across the water, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
There's also there's a girl that hangs out here from Vancouver, from British Columbia,
Oh, cool.
and she's one of the coolest people in the community, and me and her get along great, and I think very highly of her. So I judge everybody individually, but I have my experiences with Canada, if I in the aggregate, because when COVID hit and I first started Zooming, I was Zooming with a lot of Canadians for some
Okay.
reason. I got involved, and they were very friendly, pleasant people. But then there was a point at which they would get like spooked and cancel you and cut you off if you like didn't reflect well socially, if they thought like you were damaging or hurting other people. And that's before I knew what wokeness was. So they were kind of
Oh,
my
okay.
first taste of how woke people operate. So I
Yeah.
associate that kind of social dynamic more with Canada than with the US. So they're nice and they're friendly, but I'm
So we're
also
like the
prepared for
big
them to have a
liberal
problem
weird
with
place.
something and cut me at any point, faster than Americans will.
Yeah. Okay. I think that tracks. I think that might be different on the east coast of Canada compared to the west coast of Canada.
Maybe so.
Um,
I don't know. They seem a little more authoritarian than the U.S. A
yeah.
little more rulesy and a little more socially conscious, like as far as how they're making people around them feel or the effect they're having on the people around them than I think people in America might be. We kind of just do our thing, and if you don't like it, just go find someone else. Like if we're
Right.
not your cup of tea, go find somebody who is. And Canada seems more group oriented.
Okay.
But then there are plenty of individual Canadians that are even more like I guess maverick than Americans are. Like even less concerned about than Americans. There's people and I don't really know who's Canadian or American at any given moment in the YouTube universe. But there's people on YouTube that are just assholes and aggressive, and I'm surprised to find out they're Canadian. Like, oh wow, you're Canadian. I would not have guessed it from your personality. So it's hard to judge on an individual level.
So
But on
for
a
me,
zoomed out level, collectively, Canadians seem a little more collectivist.
okay. Yeah. No, I think that tracks. So I'm from the Toronto area, which is where I am now, but I was living for 12 years on the island.
On
Uh,
Vancouver.
yeah, and like polar opposite places. Ontario is very conservative. The island's very liberal. I would say that through my course of living there, I have a lot of friends that I made there, but through the last 10 years of so much political and social kind of issues, I lost a lot of those friends, a lot of them being females. Um,
Or did they cancel you, or you moved
yes.
away from them?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I would say that. I would say that there are groups of people who I hung out with 7 or 8 years ago that through time have separated based on social and like political opinion. And I think what you're saying is that doesn't happen as much in the States. People just fucking deal with it.
My first experience with cancellation for political opinions was with a group of Canadians that I was zooming with online, and I was shocked and surprised when it happened because I thought we had gotten very close and developed
Right.
strong friendships, and just like that, I was canceled, and that had never happened to me before, and they were mostly Canadians. There might have been one or two Americans in the group.
I've had family members do it. Like, so, yeah, it's interesting. It's like you say something that you think at a dinner party and you can't have a conversation about it. It's like, oh, that's who you are. You must be this, 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 and this. We don't talk to you. And it's,
Yeah, but
yeah,
that's how they are up here in Washington State as well, which
right.
is
I would
part of
assume that
America.
Washington to like California is kind of like that.
Yeah, the West Coast. Yeah.
Interesting. And so would you say you're more conservative then?
I consider myself an enlightened centrist, but I lean right. In fact, I took the political test
Yeah.
a few weeks ago, and I was like 70% right, 30% left. The left learned canceling from the right. Well, why would they take something from the right that they hate so much? Why would they adopt that one practice from this group that they think are Nazis and racist and everything else? Why would they
Yeah.
rationalize adopting that one practice from them if they're to cancel people?
Do you know what I think is something actually like the correlation between economic success in your region and liberals is huge. And I think that you could say that the west coast of Canada and of the US has a lot more wealthy people on it, whereas the east coast, i.e. like New York or Ontario or, you know, that whole east coast, those people are, there's a lot more working class. And I feel like the working class end up being conservative because they understand a lot more. They're out there dealing with shit. And
That's interesting because most of the Canadians in this group I was talking about were East Coast. But now that you mention it, they were a little more, they were less working class. They were a little more of the like middle or upper middle class.
okay. And maybe I'm wrong. I just find that there is a lot more money on the west coast of Canada, and that might have something to do with you get these people who are sort of sheltered and they write people off based on one opinion. They have no idea what that
It's
person's been
sheltered
through.
I've noticed that the sheltering has a big part. Maybe it's like a class, like a bourgeois middle class thing. Effigy, you have thoughts?
Yeah, I could be wrong about that. I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting.
If you're there.
It's like when you're rich and you can choose all the things that go on around you, then you can be that that selective, I guess, and write people off. But if you're part of a sort of a working class life where you got a mixing pot of people working their asses off, you get a lot of different views and you've got to deal with it or else you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah, it could be because the upper classes have the luxury of isolating into their they can live in they can have
In their
create
world.
their bubbles.
Yeah.
You went to school in Hawaii? Wow. Effigy, you there? If you are, we can't hear you. He's probably having connection. Jeez. He's. So what are you doing in Toronto? What's your current situation? You sound like kind of in the middle too, when it comes to left and right.
Yeah, I would say. I would, when me and my friends kind of talk about it, we talk about, and again, this isn't like proper political terminology, but we talk about the OG liberal. So like when I was in grade 9 and in high school, I was like, yeah, man, my gay friends should definitely be allowed to be gay. And like pot's not that bad. I don't think people should go to jail for pot. And I think it's good that there's support for, you know, single moms or people who are having a, you know, hard time getting a job, despite the fact that there are people that take advantage of uh, government support. I think for that, there's a lot of people who don't take advantage of it and need it. So I do think it's valid. Stuff like that, which are like pretty liberal thoughts, I think I was like 100% for. And now in 2025 with this hype, like this hyperized sort of trans movement, the like constant conversation about legalizing different narcotics or having, I don't necessarily have a problem with safe injection, but I have a problem with safe securing, if that means that there's like some sort of liberal thing supplying heroin to heroin users on the street. Like I have an issue with that. So it's like the boundaries got pushed and I'm like, okay, like let's slow down, if that makes sense.
I think that's what happened with a lot of people. Because I was the same type of liberal. That there was an overreach. There was a very sharp turn to the left that pushed those boundaries into extreme territory that most people were not willing to go. Oregon, I think 8 years ago, legalized or decriminalized all drugs.
And we did it in Vancouver, and it fucked everything.
Well, they had to reverse it. They just recently reversed it, but they did try the experiment of let's just make them all
Bro,
decriminalized.
I can't tell you how insane the drugs in Vancouver are, to the point of, like, me and my girlfriend, she has a 5-year-old son, and we're in Vancouver, and we're sitting at a bus stop, like the bus stop bench, and this couple sits beside us. So the boyfriend sits down, and the girlfriend gets on him, like straddle, like, like cowgirl style, gets on him, and she just pulls a rig right out of her pocket and sticks it in his neck, like beside us, and just starts injecting him, and we're just sitting there. Like, I remember in like grade 6 or 7, and we had a course or a class, and they told us about drugs and how different ones were used. And I remember it being like the scariest thing, like being like, if I see someone doing a needle, I am going to lose it. Like, I'm, and then I'm sitting there and it's happening beside us and her 5-year-old. And I'm like, that shouldn't even ever happen in his world, Like,
Was
I
that
don't
the
know.
norm? Has it become normalized?
That is normal.
Oh
So
my
when
God.
you walk downtown areas of Vancouver, you don't want to wear sandals. It's just needles, glass pipes, people, like, you're getting crack smoke blown in your face. Like, and it's sad, but it's
That's how
also,
Seattle is.
I think Seattle and Vancouver have a very similar problem.
They just created these. I forgot some dumb acronym they named it, but it's like these no drug zones where drug dealers are not allowed to be, and there's
You shouldn't
higher
fucking be allowed
penalties and
anywhere.
stuff.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, man.
And there's also because I worked in mental health, and with the homeless, and there's this philosophy of harm reduction where you don't encourage them to quit. You figure out how to support them to use the drug in a way that creates the least amount of harm to them.
And on the compassionate side of things,
yeah,
it's like, I get it, but it doesn't work. I don't think. I don't know.
I mean, you can't force someone to quit unless they're ready. I know that much. But at the same time, you don't have to enable that kind of destruction either.
And again, I'm sure that there's a liberal person in Canada who would cancel me for saying this, but I just don't think it needs to be in our face. For years, there's been people who are addicted to drugs, and they've been in the cracks and corners of the world, and like, I'm okay with them being in the cracks and corners of the world because they're not corrupting the kids or whoever has to, like, it's got to do things to your future when you're a young kid and you see so many people struggling. I didn't see that as a kid. I didn't see that. I saw the odd homeless person, and you almost knew who they were in your community. It wasn't like, holy shit, there's a group of people that I could end up being if I don't do the right thing. Like, it's traumatizing for sure. Even now, I'm like, fuck, if I don't figure things out, I could end up there. Like, not on drugs, but on just through life not working out. Like, I'm sure not everybody there wanted to end up there.
But the ones that didn't, those are the easiest to rehouse and get back on a
Totally.
The chronically homeless are not the ones that just took a misstep here and there and ended up there. It's mental illness. It's mostly drug.
For sure.
Drug addiction are co-occurring with mental illness. Or a lot of them are voluntary home. They've just completely checked out of the system.
You're right.
And they want to live that way.
And you're right that, like, so when we'd go to Vancouver for a weekend or whatever, and we go out for dinner, we'd always box up our stuff that we didn't eat and try to give it to a homeless person, I could say that it usually takes about 5 people before you find someone who's like thankful and wants to eat it. You know, the first few you ask are like, no, I don't want you. Like, I don't want food. You know, you're like, we just came from a nice restaurant. This is like pasta or whatever. They're just like, no. But then you'll finally, you know, after 4 or 5, you'll get someone who's like, thank you so much. I'm so hungry. And I always think in my head, I'm like, it's that guy who doesn't want to be here. And he understands that food costs money and he needs it. But you're right that it's, yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is. I know it's not this revolving door of throwing millions and millions and millions of dollars at it and nothing changes.
So my buddy, who through talking to you kind of remind me of an older version of. So he also is the guy who I was saying that's more or less conspiracy leaning. He also works with the homeless. That's his job, and foster kids and stuff like that. And I've asked him before what he thinks needs to be done, like how things could change for the people who want change. And he said that there needs to be like a protest. Like there needs to be like a voice for the homeless people that want change, and they need to go, and whether it's shut down a highway or shut down a big business building, something, and say, we want ID. We want an opportunity past getting an ID to walk into, you know, a store and not be looked at as just a homeless, stinky guy, but somebody who like wants to progress. Like, I don't want to be this guy. And they need to come together and do it together. And the
like
problem with, yeah, totally.
Like gay rights did.
For sure. But the thing is they're in such a bad place. How do you get the energy or the strength to get them together?
But they are the homeless stinky guy. Like, if you don't want to be seen that way, then don't be the homeless stinky guy. That's completely on them. Like, you can't control how someone sees you when you walk into a store.
Yeah, I guess you're right. That
And also, I think if there's enough will at some point to do what if there's enough, first of all, if there's even enough homeless that want that. Because this guy is saying that's what would help, but I don't know if there's the numbers out there that actually
you don't think the
want that as a
percentage of
goal.
them, right? Yeah. Oh, fair
Most
enough.
of the homeless people I know it's day to day. So like organizing is a long-term way of thinking that they might not always be in touch with.
Right.
Or even not even get through the day, get through the morning, then get through the afternoon, and then find a place to sleep for the evening. So, because there's plenty of organizations here that they could organize in. There's day centers, there's shelters, there's community programs that have things for them to do during the day. So the opportunities are there for them to meet and organize. And so why hasn't it already happened is one of the questions. And is there enough critical mass of homeless that have that vision for themselves? And they're in Seattle, at least, there's even places that they can shower. There's people that help them find used clothing and all kind of stuff. So even even being the homeless stinky guy is voluntary. Like, you can even overcome that on an individual level.
No, I think that's valid. Yeah.
And I don't treat the homeless badly, but if I see them in the grocery store, I mean, I'm not gonna go up and embrace them. I'm gonna just do my shopping and let them do their shopping. But I am gonna think in the back of my mind, oh, that's a homeless person. I don't want them to. I don't want the stinkiness on me. Like, I think most people would not want that. But I don't interfere with them as long as they're just doing their thing. I'm able to coexist.
Yeah.
But if they want to be seen a certain way, they have to. That's what the gay people had to do. We had to reverse all of the myths and misimpressions people had about us by showing people that we could be normal, productive members of society. So that's what they would have to do on their end.
That's interesting. Like, as someone from the gay community, how do you see the progress of like LGBTQ? Do you think it's gone?
Beyond my wildest dreams. Like, we never even imagined we'd get marriage, or we thought like we'd gradually get it at the state level here and there, and then all of a sudden we got everything we asked for with one court ruling, and we were ready to join society. And then the trans and the queer and the Q plus came along with completely different goals and agendas and
And that
hijacked our
must be
movement. We
hard.
are two different
Yeah,
groups.
totally.
The
I hear
trans
that.
thing was that came out of nowhere. Like, that was almost not. You had like a few trans people here and there in the movement on the fringes,
Do you
and all
feel
of a
like
sudden,
do you feel like you get grouped into that?
yes, I have to.
Uh,
I spent a lot of time on this channel explaining to people that we are two different groups, and on social
I,
media that we are two different groups. We have different goals, different agendas.
I feel like that's
Ordinary
something that
gay and
I can see.
lesbians of my generation, almost you don't hear anything about us anymore. Like, we're
You're
that
part
that's
of, yeah,
done as a movement. People have adapted, they've adjusted, and they've moved. Like, if you see two men holding hands or kissing on TV, nobody
no,
cares.
you're right.
So we got everything that we were fighting for. We got
But then the goalpost gets pushed
the
for these
goalposts
people,
got
and
changed completely. It didn't even get pushed. It got changed
right,
to a completely different goal that was nothing to do with what we were fighting for. We kids were never part of our agenda at all.
right.
The gender stuff was never part of our agenda at all. Those are totally different new agendas with a totally new group fighting for them. But they're trying to hitch them because what happened is we built the infrastructure, the advocacy infrastructure for the purposes of getting marriage. And once we got that, they were kind of like these abandoned buildings that this new group of people moved into and repurposed for their agendas. But to the outside, it all looks like the same groups and organizations.
Would you say the push for you to have marriage is more just that you just want to be able to have? It's not necessary because are you pro? I'm sorry. Let me think of how I ask this. I'm not. I don't want to offend you in any way.
You're not gonna.
As a gay man, I would think that a lot or religion. Are you religious? Let me ask that.
I'm a Satanist,
Oh,
non-theistic. So
okay.
it's
Interesting.
I'm a
Yeah.
Christian Satanist. I consider myself a Christian Satanist because it's all part of the same mythology. But I was a marriage advocate. I was one of the people that helped to fight for
Because
marriage.
you want to be married, or just because you think that you
We
should be
wanted the
allowed?
same benefits that marriage in the United States was a secular institution. And so it wasn't
Right.
associated with any particular religion, but it came
Okay.
with a set of benefits and protections that we also wanted. I
Right.
lost my
I
partner
got you.
in '07,
Oh, I'm
and
sorry.
everything he owned went to his mom. And I was
Oh,
kind of just left on my own. Like, everything we had built together, our home, the life we had built, I would have been protected from that. My life would have been very different had we had marriage at the time.
shit.
Um, with tax breaks, being able to file as a
Right.
couple instead of singly, all that's the kind of stuff that we wanted marriage for. Is the very
Right.
practical legal benefits that
Of
you
course.
get from being able to participate and join that institution.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
And I have no problem with religious marriage. Churches can do
Right.
their marriage however they want, but that's separate from the institution that's also called marriage, that is set up as a legal institution, a secular legal institution here in the United States.
Yeah.
He did have a will. Well, we were young too. He was 30, 38. I was 36. And so we never thought we had to do any of that. He did have a will, but it was an old will from way before we met, and it was the one that made his mom beneficiary of everything. I mean, he just never bothered to change it because we never saw this coming, and it was a very sudden medical illness that happened very quickly. And that's why I tell people to this day that, like, no matter how young you are, plan for that kind of stuff. Do it in your
Fuck,
20s.
man.
That is never too soon to make those kind of plans. If there's a certain outcome that you want for your loved one, don't postpone it just because you think you're young.
Did
But if
you?
I had proposed to him in 01, that was before any of the states had marriage, and this was in Vegas, and we would have had to do a civil union. And so we were waiting for real marriage, but our plan was to get married whenever it was legally available to us. And so if we had had marriage back then, we would have been married. That would have
Yeah.
been the person I was married to.
Now you mentioned like everything went to his mom. Was his mom kind of not fond of the marriage or what?
No, she hated not at all. She hated me.
Man, it was old school. Yeah.
But we ended up becoming close in the aftermath because we were the two people in the world that cared about him the most, and
Right.
we kind of like went through the grief together, and so we ended up
Okay.
becoming support for each other in the aftermath of the loss in a way that neither one of us would have predicted beforehand because we were at opposite sides of she was a Tea Party Republican, I was a liberal Democrat fighting for gay rights. She hated me. I was not the partner she would have picked for her son at all. She was like the evil mother-in-law. I was
I
the
could
other
imagine.
I
Yeah.
was
You
the
know.
other I was kind of like the other woman in straight terms that was taking her son away from her.
Right.
So it was very fraught. And
Have you found someone since or
no,
no?
no. In fact, I moved up. I'm from Louisiana originally. I moved up to Seattle in '09 for a relationship to like try again after
Right.
after the loss, and that was a disaster. That did not
Oh,
go well at all, and it's been downhill ever since because Seattle is so opposite of the culture I come from. It's just been I feel
oh.
like an immigrant. It's been
I'm
cultural
sorry,
friction
man.
ever since.
You know, I'm in a place in my life right now where I've been with a lot of I've had a lot of relationships and I've been in a long one for 6 years now. Uh, and she's corporate for like JYSK Furniture. She makes a ton of money, and I'm just like a paycheck to paycheck guy. And I've stepped away from her. I'm back in Ontario now. She's still on the island. Where was I going with this? Um, and I'm just in this point where like I can't even think about a relationship. All I can think about honestly is finding success and getting my, I don't know, going to school or doing something so that I can figure a life out to not end up on Hastings or
What's
on
Hastings?
the street in Vancouver
Oh.
or on the street in Seattle. You know what, like that kind of vibe. I want to be successful, and I've just completely stopped thinking about relationships and women and
Are the two of you still together?
in close contact. And she came to visit me, and we actually have a business together on the island, a clothing store. But she's my boss. She pays me $20 an hour, and she has a corporate job. And
Is there is the relationship is not necessarily over, but it's
it's not
just
necessarily over, but I want to become a successful person, and I'm not able to focus on the love and attention she needs because I need to fucking fit. I'm like 32 and I need to figure shit out.
what are your ambitions? Like, what is your background, your skill set, your interest, and what is your ambitions? And do you find being a white male, is it harder now? Like, then I guess you
Yeah.
don't have a reference point for my day, but do you find that is one of the challenges?
Yeah. Two things. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
I
would.
guess let's start with what do you want to do? Like, how do you want to be
Sorry.
successful?
I didn't mean to change the subject from you. Also, I just want to say that like the reason I brought that up is because you were just saying that your relationship and stuff didn't work out, and for me, I'm on a side of things where I don't even want a relationship. So I guess what I was trying to sort of get to was like try and see the benefits of living the single life, I
Oh,
guess.
believe me, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
There's I'm not the type that can get into a relationship just to have a relationship if it's not exactly what I'm looking for.
Okay, cool. And then so yeah, back to that. So I started kind of designing clothes and stuff when I was like 16. I've always been into fashion.
Oh wow.
And so when I was 20, sorry, I shouldn't say designing. I've always had ideas. Moved from Ontario to Vancouver Island when I was 20. Started working in restaurants because I thought it was creative. I thought maybe I could be a chef or something. So for like 5 or 6 years, I cooked. And then I got myself a MacBook and like the Illustrator program, and I started making logos. And I just got addicted to it. So for like 6 years while I was working crappy jobs, I'd just be designing all night. Graphics, t-shirts, stuff like that. And then I'm just trying to shorten everything because it's long. Basically, I wasn't happy working anymore as a cook, and I wanted to switch my career up. So I went to kind of like a government-funded community. It was called Community Futures. It was like a program for people who wanted to start their own business. So I built a business plan and stuff, and said that I wanted to create basically like a clothing brand like Supreme, or if you know Supreme, or like a streetwear clothing. Do you know Supreme?
Mm-mm.
No.
I'm not very in touch with fashion either.
We could say like a Nike type brand, but small.
Oh, okay.
And so I tried to create one of those, make t-shirts and hats and stuff, and it did pretty well, but I was still just learning. Like I was just alone doing it. So I moved. I left a move out of there. Anyways, fast forward. I meet my current on-off girlfriend, and she's running a business already. It's kind of like gifts, candles, female gifts and shit like that. And so she started selling my brand in her store. We started dating, and through that, I taught her all about clothes and stuff, and we started a thrift store. So in that town, we have our thrift store, and she has a gift store. She's also a head buyer for JYSK. She like buys pillows, couches, all that stuff. So that store that we did together has been running for like 5 or 6 years. And I kind of just sit there as like her employee and look at all her success. And I'm like, I just want it too. So I've designed like clothing collections for our store, for brands. I've made a couple different products, packaging. I love advertising and branding, and like what I really like doing is if someone has a brand and they want to go somewhere with it, I love like putting myself into their brand and thinking about what could make it cool. It's like consulting as an idea. I don't know where to go or how to start.
Well, you sound like you have. There's a ton of potential there. So you still want to do that kind of stuff? Clothing,
All
brand,
of it.
graphic, all of that. So when you say be successful, you're like at this kind of stuff you've currently already been doing.
Yeah. It's funny. I started Mad Men like a week ago, the show, and I just finished it today, and I'm super inspired by just even like advertising type stuff, like just working with companies to make their shit cool is what I want to do.
God, if I had the money, I would hire you today. I need that. I went to a branding workshop this week, and they were
cool.
talking about all that kind of stuff.
That's sweet.
There's so much nuance involved in branding that the ordinary person wouldn't even think of. And hey, Zephyr, and hey, Effigy, are you here? I see it's snowing where you are.
Hello.
Yeah, sorry.
Not snowing here.
It's
A
snowing
shocking
on
audio
Effigy.
problem to deal with.
There's probably my brain is going in 10 different directions because I'm inspired by this dude, and I think what's keeping you from being successful? Because I think you could easily turn that into some kind of success.
I guess like when you ask that question, my brain also goes in 10 different directions. The first one is just that, like, I can talk to you about this. I can tell my friends or other people I meet. When it comes to finding the right person to tell this to, I don't know who that is. And I don't know how to prove to them that what I'm saying is valid and I'm not just bullshitting, because I don't have a lot of experience outside of my personal experience.
You have a portfolio?
I do, but again, because it's based on like work I've done for myself, I feel like it's missing something. Like there's something that, because I haven't worked for other people, there's something I'm missing. I don't know.
Yeah.
The other problem I have is I have a lot of ideas. Like I'll be sitting there and I'll like have an idea for very small example. So I don't know if you know, like workwear pants, like Carhartt pants. They've got the grommets
Oh, I love
on them.
Carhartts.
You know the grommets on like the stitch points, pull points. So I had an idea, instead of having like metal grommets, to put the like Swarovski diamonds where those are. And I made a pair at home, whatever. And then a month later, Supreme.
That idea.
Thank you.
Everything perfectly. I love it.
Supreme put them out like 2 weeks ago. And it was funny because like I told my grandma about the idea, and then 2 weeks later, Supreme made them and put them out. So like I showed my grandma, I'm like, you remember when I talked about this? Like, here they are. And I have that all the time. Like, I'll have this idea, but I'm not in charge of a company or have millions of dollars to produce it.
So you just need to like be in the right place with the right people.
You gotta go out into the public, really. Like, just go out in the public and like ask the universe to put someone in your path, and you just gotta recognize when you come in contact with that person, because like literally, like a few years ago, I basically, I've been reading tarot cards my whole life, and I've never like done it professionally. One, because like it energetically drained me, and that was, I think, because I wasn't getting any sort of, there was no reciprocal energy exchange going on there.
Okay.
So I was just giving them away, and it gets to be exhausting that way. So you have to get something back from it, putting your work out, or you just drain yourself. Sometimes it works. But basically, I had this friend Zach, and he was busking, and so I just like went with him, and I saw how it worked, and that made me more comfortable with it. And I've just been doing that ever since. And I just go out to an area where there's people, and I don't even advertise. I don't do anything like that. I'm just there where the people are walking by. I create like a little atmosphere. I have lights and signs, and I bring all my crystals out.
Oh wow, like a live little YouTube channel.
Yeah, I set it all up. And people just, they're curious, and I don't even try to get their attention per se. I just sit there and I listen to music and I have fun all by myself. And when people like come up and just start asking about it, so like you should wear your clothes out in public and go walk around, and people will ask you about them. Things like that.
That's true. I do sometimes do stuff like that for sure. Well, it's funny actually you say that, and about, I do believe a little bit in manifestation. I don't know if you guys know who Travis Scott is or not, but like I went to see Travis Scott with my girlfriend last year, and I had made this hat with like cactuses and stuff on it, stitched. And I messaged whoever I could that I could find an email for in his team, being like, I have this hat. If I could give it to you at the concert, I'd love to give it to you. I never got a response. And I'm watching the show, we're there, whatever. And this kid, he's like looking at this kid, and he's pointing at him, and the kid throws this hat. And he puts the hat on. It was just a Stussy, like branded hat. But he wore that hat in every photo for the next month and a half. And in my head, I was like, I should have fucking given them the hat. I didn't. It wasn't me. It was this other. But I was like, that was supposed to be for me. Like, and if it had been my hat, he would have been wearing. Anyways, it didn't happen. But it was like one of those things where I was like, did I put that out there? Like,
you did, absolutely. And you have to, like, with your gut instinct, because that's where that comes from. It's coming from your gut. You're like, I don't know if you know anything about human design, but it's like astrology mixed with I Ching, and it helped me like figure out like really what I'm supposed to do here on Earth, which is like it's a huge claim, but it like really gave me some insight into like the way the energy works for me, because everybody's different. And whenever I figured that out, it was like, oh, I'm supposed to be in the public. I'm supposed to be like talking to people. I'm supposed to be helping people. And it was like, it just made a huge, it made a huge impact. And I think it's really good, just like self-knowledge, like figuring out really how you work and what your tics are and what your hangups are. And, you know, you can edit them. You can fix yourself.
100%.
And I've given artwork away to artists as well. Like Prof, I went to a Prof concert and I gave Haven, his merch girl, a painting. And because like there's things that I hear in his newer songs that like they seem very very synchronistic to the, because I have the dot sign. It's like an upside down stop sign, except for I turned the T right side up. And there was one of those on the painting that I gave him. And he did the song that was like dot, 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 dot. Like, and it was like really, I was like, after that, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
You feel like influencing someone who's a big deal.
Totally.
And I think that that's more than enough for me. I don't want to be a big deal myself necessarily. I just like, I like to be acknowledged as influence for some reason.
I'd like to have a cool job and do cool things and be financially comfortable.
Yeah, that's me too. And I think that you can get that pretty reasonably. You just have to pick the thing that you want to do is something that you would do for free. And you might have to do it for free for a long time. And
it's
so
funny you said that, because someone was saying to me the other day, they're like, actually, well, because Jeff, you were kind of talking about, I think you kind of started to bring up how things are different getting a job for like a white male today than they were maybe 20 years ago or something. And fuck, where was I going with that? My friend was saying that a lot of guys are starting to get jobs by volunteering at the place they want to work and being really fucking good at it. And then being like, so I think I'm going to stop now. And then they're like, wait, we'd like you to work here. And I think that makes so much sense, that like, if you want to find a job that you want and you're good at it, just go do it for free for a little while. It makes sense.
Yeah, totally. And you have to have the passion to be able to sustain it through those times where you're not.
Exactly.
And you have to be like good at, you know, surviving, I guess, because you have to, you know, have your basic needs met. And that is the thing, is like a lot of times you don't get a lot of payouts. Like sometimes whenever I go and I busk, I don't make any money, but I like usually try and be conservative enough to where I have something put away for those times to cover it. Just push it through. It doesn't discourage me. I know that next week could be like totally different. I mean, I've had like this guy came up and like literally didn't ask what the price was, anything. He had a whole entourage of people with him that were like very annoyed that he was like not paying attention to them. And he sat down, he got a reading, and he gave me $200, like it was nothing.
Nice.
And it was, wow, that's
you sound like you sound like you're very much on the right track and very close. It's just the right opportunity or break at the right time.
Yeah, just ask the universe for what you want, literally out loud. It works. It sounds crazy, but it does make a difference for it to be out loud.
So one other thing that I do find is a bit of a struggle is being Canadian. So if I was in a place like Seattle, New York, LA, these places, I feel like I could just walk into them. Being in Ontario, Canada, it's like, there's just not much here.
I don't know. Like Daria said, don't be fooled by location changes. There are opportunities where you are right now. You just have to find them.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And Albuquerque is not. There's no scene here. I mean, it's literally got no scene other than Southwest art, which I'm not a Southwest artist.
But what's the biggest city closest to you?
Albuquerque. Albuquerque is the city. It's like the biggest city in New Mexico, but it's like not very big. It's spread out, but
I'm bad with cities and the states and stuff. I just feel like even if you're in like, so for me, Toronto's 2.5 hours away. So I guess maybe I'm bullshitting. I guess you're right. Like if I wanted to go to a big city to find it, Toronto would be the one.
Yeah.
Is that, or you say you're a couple of hours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a friend that's in clothing design too, and he does say that like the big cities is where the fashion scene is, and it's much harder to do it outside of proximity to a big city. But also, I think as a creative, you're also limited by your own creativity.
And that's something I think I've realized is I don't want to make the next big brand. I'd like to help a brand that exists become the next big brand. Like just because it's the branding and the success that I like, not necessarily the building from the floor up. I feel like whether it was like Louis Vuitton or like the Gap, either or, I could put myself into their like shoes and be able to like be like, oh, this is what this brand is. Let's do it. You know, like.
Are there brands you currently have your eye on, or have you looked at
Lots,
branding jobs?
Sure. Lots. I haven't sent many applications yet because I guess that's a stupid reason. I'm always afraid that they're just going to get thrown into this pile because there's nothing about them that are.
They might. They probably will. Just assume that they will. But all you need is that one that does not.
You're right.
It's randomly sending stuff is like a numbers game. But if you identify specific opportunities at companies you're interested in, there's other ways in besides just sending them your work too. So don't let that stop you.
Retention is something that is very subtle art, and I think like it's particularly successful to do the like what the fuck for the win sort of like what the fuck, you know, like totally catch someone like with the dot sign. Most people just go, why is that stop sign upside down? And then I go, it's not a stop sign. And they're like, huh? And then you tell them, and then they're like, oh, you know, they're like, whoa, that's friggin' awesome. Yeah. And it just gets their attention, and that's something that they won't forget. So like, then they say, oh, you're the docs girl, you're the docs girl. You know?
For sure, yeah.
And effigy, I want you to have a chance to get into if you want. I can only go for about 15 or 20 more minutes, and then I have an appointment.
Yeah, I should get out of here soon. I'm gonna make dinner.
Going, Jeff.
Well, I was, you know me. I'm a hardcore skeptic in a lot of areas, so I was kind of just sitting back when a lot of the woo talk was happening. I would say that no one is going to hire you to do big things unless they can see that you can do small things.
For sure. Yeah, totally.
I would. Sounds like he is doing small things.
No, I agree with that. Like, and I'm down to start on small things for sure.
And just building on that. I mean, I'd be interested in talking to you. Yeah. And effigy, you were making comments earlier about the political stuff. You had some. What was it about? Like cancel culture and liberals doing weird things.
I think it's an obvious thing to say that because the path of the United States is so right dominant. And I just from my lived experience, I'd say from my anecdotal experience, the left learned cancel culture from the right. Like if you think back to like before the left was really ascendant, the easiest examples for me are like the 80s. I remember at my family, my Cajun family's Thanksgiving, we always had outcasts from other families because my aunt was gay. So people who got kicked out of their families because of their sexuality, would come and have Thanksgiving with us.
Oh.
So things like kicking atheists out of your home because they don't believe your religion, kicking gay people, lesbians out of your home. This is the cancel culture, the purity culture. It's not, you can call it cancel culture, and that's just kind of a new term for it, but it's really just kind of a purity politics or a purity culture that a lot of different things exhibit, but most easily is highly religious people are this is their like natural state to like make their numbers smaller by constantly purifying themselves and becoming more and more adherent to certain kind of definitions of what it means to be them. The left is totally doing it now, though. Yeah.
Maybe some would say that the left progressivism has taken on some of the features of a religion. So maybe that's part of it. The more like a religion it becomes, the more it begins to behave.
I mean, sure. I mean, the more kind of indoctrinated and systems you put around just a series of beliefs, then you could kind of start to say it's like a quasi-religion. Of course, I think religions have very specific aspects of, involving deities and things like that, with the exceptions of like Buddhism and things like that. But
yeah, they say the same about Satanism too.
Yeah, but I mean, if you start going down that path, then you get to the people who are like, science is a religion and stuff like that, and it's just then all words don't have meanings anymore.
Yeah,
and why are we even?
I agree. Another thing the left has been doing is stretching those words until they pop. Welcome, Apocalypse. We love Horseman, Dogman, Goatman, Satan. Okay, I got it. Thank you. Hello.
You got there in the end.
Yeah, Goatman. Well, Dave, I think, I'm excited and inspired just hearing your story, but I think just networking and like
yeah, totally
continuing to connect with people and finding we gotta get this guy connected to the right people.
Cheers, man. What kind of business do you do?
Me?
Well, you were saying that you wanted to talk about like branding.
Oh yeah, well I have this channel and I work in mental health. I had started my own business a few years ago. I'm a peer counselor and I do men's mental health, particularly neurodivergent men, autism, ADHD, that kind of stuff. And this channel, which originally started to be kind of a men's mental health channel, and it just grew from there. But that's still the core of it.
Yeah,
and,
sick.
I want to do this full time. I'm trying to build it up to where this channel and my practice can be my full-time career.
I feel like you have a calmness that works for it, for sure.
Oh, a calmness. Yeah. Other people would probably disagree, so I'll take, coming from a Canadian, right? I will take that one.
I sometimes run away the calm from Jeff, so.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, I can get passionate.
I'm always excited.
You what?
Always excited.
Television, that is not true. What's going on with your mental health? First of all, turn off your social media because it can make you crazy and paranoid.
No more doom scrolling.
Hit me up on Discord if you want. I'll talk about it with you. It's not true that I don't care about people's mental health. If there's something going on with you, let's talk.
I think that would be a great connection. I think that you could probably help him a bit.
Ooh, Lord. Is that effigy?
You're a bong rip.
Or is that Dave? Oh.
That's not me. It wouldn't be far off, though, but no.
That might have been me.
Yeah, it was definitely you.
Oh. We could hear it from all the way across the room.
The mic is in my
oh, I see. Okay.
Well, I might take off, guys, but I'll check out.
Yeah, I'm live every day. I used to do it at this time every day, but I'm starting a part-time job tomorrow, and so I'm gonna be having to move it around. But if you subscribe, you should get the notification of when I'm on. And we also have a Discord server if you're on Discord. So yeah, I'd love to talk again.
Awesome. Cheers. Nice meeting you guys.
You too. Take care, Dave,
nice.
and I wish you that success you're looking for.
Same to you guys. Yeah, chat soon.
Even if it's woo-woo, I don't care.
Well,
hurt,
you know, the
right?
woo-woo doesn't hurt, just like with religious people. If they want to pray for me or all that, it doesn't hurt. I say, yeah, sure, pray for me
That's
if
how
it
I feel too.
helps.
I let people pray for me all the
Like I
time.
can't quantify the degree to which it helps, but I'm not going to turn it away if it adds, if it adds a little micro something to it.
Yeah, it just seems rude to refuse it, you know? I mean, and I'm grateful.
Yeah, I can appreciate the intention and the spirit behind it.
As an atheist, I've had people tell me they're going to pray for me more times than I can count.
Do you let them pray?
Sure.
Yeah.
Like, hey, thanks. Appreciate it.
That's a good way
I
to
mean,
be.
I think so
I
too.
mean, a lot of religious people kind of mean it as a dig in a way. I don't really see it as like some of them are genuine about it, but I think a lot of them are like, there's something wrong with you. I think that's the implication. But
I
just
think accepting it is grace, though, you know?
yeah,
And if you can
sure. If
grace,
you're going to take
you know,
time
Oh,
out of your
that's
day
the
to think about me, hey,
condescending
that's
kind
cool.
of. I'm gonna pray for you. Yeah, I know what I know that kind too. I just ignore that kind. But I'm talking about stuff like if you're looking for a job or if you're sick or going through something and they're like, "Well, I'll keep you in my prayers." Or like my mom at her church, they have this prayer list they could put people's names on and then the whole congregation prays on Sunday for them. I'm like, "Yeah,
I mean,
put
sure.
my name on the list.
It's
Put my name
yeah.
on the prayer list. It
Putting
can't
having
hurt."
someone in mind is that's always nice. That's always nice for people to do. Um, Whether or not it affects the real world is a whole nother question.
True.
Who knows? Maybe the combined psychic energy somehow affects the dimensional planes,
It
and
could.
prayer really
Yes,
does
and I don't
work, and it's a
yes.
natural thing.
I think
you
we
know that
should. We haven't tried that yet. Putting all of our collective psychic energy onto something.
We haven't
that's
tried
good.
figuring out if
Well,
there is a thing called psychic
Well,
energy.
let's figure out a small little goal for this community that we could put our psychic energy on and see if it like if anybody has a particular something they're trying to do. Zephyr, do you have like a project you're
um,
currently working on that you're trying to get over the
looking for
line?
a team of people to work on some creative stuff,
Well, Dave
particularly.
showed up today.
Yeah. But the problem is I don't have a lot of resources, so yeah, it's going to take some, really passionate people that are
Well,
into.
that's what I'm looking for. Maybe we can put the current passion that we have, like try some kind of little thought experiment, like collective mind experiment. Like I'm trying
As
to get
much
my
as
subs up over
I mean,
to the
I'm
1,000 line. That's
yeah,
my
yeah.
current goal.
I'm
Maybe
almost at
maybe that's what we can do. Like
Got to
next
start
time we
yelling more,
stream,
Jeff.
huh?
So if you want to get those subs up, you got to start yelling more.
yeah,
Is that
more
what was
argument.
bringing them? People said that was causing them to drop. I can spurg out more if that's gonna do subs. I don't plan it though; it just happens. But
I've
like
been told the drama brings the subs.
it kind yeah it does. I know the numbers go up when Mike shows up.
I don't know why. It's so trash,
Because
really.
of
I
the
mean,
energy, people are there. They get
hate it.
they play out their what's missing from their own life through the people on YouTube. That dramatic energy.
Like Jerry
But
Springer, they try
Zephyr,
to.
next time you're here, or next time I'm out, and there's this kind of crowd, let's try to pick. Let's try to set some goals, like pick small little goals that we could test, and then we'll get everybody to focus their positive energy on it. And then we'll follow up over the course of like a few weeks and see if people are getting closer to their goals. Like that would have been perfect to do with
Or we
Dave's
could do like a
today.
scientific experiment, like we're going to do a control test or anything
Yeah,
like.
like yeah, and it'll have the side benefit of people will get the positive energy to help them manifest.
Well, I'm a
But then the
renewable.
scientifically minded people among us can also start gathering some data to see what kind of effect the stuff actually has. You don't poison my stream, Apocalypse. Oh my God. Compared to
No,
some of the people that show up, you're a breath of air.
we.
Yeah, no, I've never had an issue with you, dude. I like you. I like going on your panels. So I think I think you add a lot and you're an asset, or at least I consider you so.
The other thing
Well,
I was talking about before I got crashed out was the conspiracy stuff.
yeah,
Um,
that.
so I mean, 9/11 was a big thing for everybody, but it was like right at the time when I was in college. Um, like my college time was kind of like split around that time. Um, and it just, everyone I knew it profoundly affected. It made everyone question things, think about things. And a lot of people went down that conspiracy hole. A lot of people went straight down that, including me, for a time.
I don't. Was it? You think it was mostly on campuses and internet circles? Because I don't remember.
Well, it was the
I
left.
ran into
That was the
conspiracies
time when
years
the left
after the
was
fact.
mainly like the conspiratards. Right now, the right are the main conspiratards. But during right after 9/11, because the right basically had control of everything, the left were like the main conspiratards for sure, like far and away.
Oh, I didn't. I just don't remember them.
I was heavy into politics around the time. I was more of an activist, doing marches and stuff all throughout that time. Oh yeah, they were deep in. I mean, not to say that there weren't people on the right, because like
And was
libertarians and all this
was
other.
it internet driven or was this kind of pre-internet? Because that was right on the cusp of. YouTube didn't even start until 2005.
2005, yeah. Yeah, so video sharing was still not as
It
easy,
was
but
blogging.
it was starting to happen. Um, but I when I heard him talking about 9/11, I was like, man, you're not even bringing out the really interesting ones. You're just kind of saying the original things. And there are some interesting questions still about 9/11, but saying like a jet plane can't knock over a building, it's like, yeah, it can, man. it just can.
Like there was nothing weird about it when I saw it. It looked like, oh, a plane crashed. Like you even see planes in movies crash into buildings, so it didn't seem odd that a plane could cause a building to collapse. But then he also said that it was kind of like seeing things on the internet where was first alerting him to the anomalies of having to build. Like it's not something that's just obvious on the
Oh yeah, I mean,
surface.
there's a ton of things that, I mean, it's all a matter of the context it's shown in and who you're willing to believe and where your biases lie. Because
Yeah.
when someone shows a video of the corner of the building after the plane went through, and there are like sparks shooting out from an edge, and someone goes, "Hey, that's thermite. That's obviously planted thermite eating through the girders so that the building will fall." And then they're
They
like, "Oh,
actually
well,
found
I instantly believe that," instead of
and
thinking
tested
of
it.
any of the other number of things that could have been, right?
Yeah, they did test
Yes.
and they found residue for thermite, and it was military grade, which is very interesting. But I haven't seen the actual data myself, so it could be bullshit.
But
I mean,
effigy, what you
tested
just
what?
described, and what Zephyr just said, that's the perfect
Like
example of
that's
how
another
these
thing. Like most of
conspiracy
the
things
stuff
work.
was shipped away. All of the debris from 9/11 was shipped away really fast. Like that was one of the other
Well,
conspiracies, because one of Bush's brothers or cousins was the one in charge of the cleanup detail. Like trust me, I was neck deep in this stuff. I knew every angle of the 9/11 conspiracies. Like because the cleanup was really fast. It was sent overseas to where it couldn't be checked. Investigators only had like random pieces that were left. Like all of it. But a lot of the stuff that people claim where they're like, well, we proved this, and it's like, well, did you? Because
Well,
there, like I said,
maybe we could
there
do a
are
stream on it.
genuine interesting questions on this thing, but a lot of it just like the no one, like the famous one is like jet fuel melts steel beams, right?
Melts
Um,
what? Steel beams.
yeah, like that's the famous one. And when you read the 9/11 report, it never says that. It says that an intense fire burning from jet fuel can weaken steel structures. Basically, it can weaken the steel joints of holding the building together, which is complete and utter logical sense, right? It's not saying that it can turn steel beams into molten steel, right? It's just saying it can weaken the structure holding a shit ton of weight. And I think that's one of the easiest examples of how the 9/11 stuff kind of just got crazy, crazy. And I'm not even getting into the plane had pods of missiles on the bottom, or uh, all the other crazy stuff, or that the Israelis infiltrated the 9/11 building, the World Trade Centers before, and were planting bombs and thermite on the sides, all kinds of stuff.
I would love to do a whole stream just on this, like anatomy of a conspiracy theory, because that example you gave, is exactly how conspiracy theories work. They'll take a little fact and they'll slant it a certain way, or they'll start to build a narrative around it that goes beyond what you can infer from just that fact. And depending on the source, people will swallow it. It somehow bypasses the critical thinking.
So I call this. I get people are going to roll their eyes if they're religious, especially because I harp on this kind of stuff. But I call this magic brained. Like this is what religious people have. Religious people in religious thinking will accept magical answers for things like events and texts and stuff like that, and they'll assume these things, and so they get their brain into this idea that fantastical things can happen, and you can just assume without having to critically think. Like,
yeah,
so
that's that mythological thinking. That's our
there you go. Mythological thinking is another good way of putting it. Yeah,
I must be explain. Because I'm a total idealist, but I'm also like skeptical of everything.
The conspiracy is the conspiracy. That's what That's what Dave was suggesting too. That the conspiracies are the conspiracy. I have to run because I have an appointment I have to go to, but I will be out tomorrow for our Valentine's Day.
Interesting. That right when we're talking about the conspiracies, Jeff has to turn off the channel.
Right. Yeah. Well, I did
like
say there. I have a hair. I'm getting my hair cut. I have a hair. I got to go see the barber in about 20 minutes. And then tomorrow I'm going to do that Valentine's thing. So when I come back tomorrow with short hair, you can see that it was not a conspiracy. I was actually telling.
I'm going to mention your haircut tomorrow, and you'll be like, "What haircut?"
Have a great day. You too. Both of you, all of you, every single one of you, and even people that are not here. I hope every human on the planet has a great day. If we could just have one great day out of all the days in history, if just one of them could be great for everybody all at the same time.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to do my little part.
See you later.
Are you doing anything for Valentine's?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't really observe holidays that much. I think that.
Okay. Well, you can come hang out with us tomorrow night. We're having Valentine's for all the people that don't have Valentine's.
Yeah, I might do something at some point, but it's like, yeah, pretty much like don't observe the tyranny of traditions.
Rebel.
The tyranny of traditions. Yeah, you rebel.
Yeah, well, it just like makes it to where it's like robotic and automatic, and you don't even think about it. You're just doing it for doing it. And I like to whenever I give gifts randomly. Like whenever I see something that I think my friend will like, and I get it, I just get it and I give it to them.
I don't mean to be a shithead, but is that a long way of saying you're single?
Chaos Santa. No, she actually has a Valentine.
Oh, yeah. So then you actually are rebelling then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't expect presents.
Fight the good fight, sister.
For sure.
The candy industrial complex will not win tomorrow. They will not win.
Yeah, I doubt they will. I feel like we're already winning. So I'm a kind of, I don't know. I'm an absurd nihilist and also an anarchist. Sort
I
of.
like that absurd nihilism.
Yeah.
Well, have fun, whatever you do. Maybe we'll see you. If not, have a good Valentine's, and I'll be out. I'll be out tomorrow for sure, but then after that, my schedule is going to be unknown. So you'll see me when you see me. So have a great day, everybody. Effigy, it was good talking to you.
You as well, Jeff. Thanks for letting me up.
And
take care.
Zephyr, you as well.
Thank you.
And I will see everybody later. All right, I have to run. Otherwise, I would stick around. So look for me tomorrow. Valentine's Day for losers. See you then. Have a great rest of your day. Hang on. There we go. Gotta get my branding. All right, take care, everybody. Hail Satan. Hail Cupid.